Are we ready?
Yeah.
I think we're ready to go.
All right. You're now tapped into What Kind of Party Is This? We got episode 6. That's crazy. Episode 6.
Already.
Damn. What's going on?
Oh my god.
Yeah, what were you talking?
We got brothers today.
Yeah.
We got a pair of brothers.
Yeah.
Dynamic duo, like.
In fact,
You know, we like to hear that.
It's funny. We've actually gotten that a lot. I mean, a lot of people mistake us as twins.
Yeah. Actually, last night was funny. We lied to people saying we were fraternal twins.
Well, the thing is that we're actually born a year apart, but both in November. We're called. What is it?
It's Irish twins. Irish twins.
It's
Yeah.
like Nick and Yamir are like that too.
Yeah.
He was November 10th. Mine was November 1st, but he's
1995. She's 96. Yeah.
So,
Word.
You know, my mom, crazy woman for having 5 kids. I'll tell you that right now. And it's weird because the older you get, the more you like look at people our age that are having kids, and you're like, yo, that looks mad hard, yo.
Yo, seriously.
Yeah, like raising them. Also in the window that she had it, right? Because I mean, there's 5 of us in 6 years. Yeah. So like we are the closest in age of all of our siblings, but from my oldest sister to my youngest sister, they're only 6 years apart, like 1994 to 2000. So it's just like raising.
My brothers are separate. Like I'm 11 years younger than my oldest brother, and then I'm 8 years older than my younger brother.
Wow.
So we're hella separate.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'll tell you, it's really nice that we are close in age because I think that's been a big part of like why we kind of mesh well together socially.
It does make a difference because even like my older brother, like that's a different generation, and my younger brother's a different generation.
Right.
So it's like
a lot of his friends are my friends. A lot of my friends are his friends.
And
which
was
is
not the case for my brothers.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's a big difference.
Which is kind of the thing is what's nice about like even meeting with you guys. I mean, we all, I think other than Simone, because I mean, I didn't meet you. I met you through Brett. Like with Michael James, like I met you like on my own.
Yeah. We were talking about that in the car. How we all kind of.
I was saying too. I was like, I met you.
It was weird because I was like having a flashback to the first time I met Simone, and like I knew she was a cool person when she like mentioned like Sam Cooke, and she like actually knew music by him. Wasn't just saying like the most generic songs. Like knew most of his music. I was like, all right, this girl's pretty cool. Yeah. And I mean. That same night I was pretty drunk. I just thought it was funny when like we both met Michael James like separately, and you like gave him like a cup. I was surprised that he knew you. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, no.
I thought I was introduced to that. So
it's funny because no matter like, who I'm with depends on what they call me. Like my friends from high school, like MV, like some people call me Mike. My coworkers call me MJ. Like. The group of people call me Michael J. Like, it really depends on who I'm with to call me what.
Well, when I met Alyssa, that's how like her and all of her friends like called you Michael James.
They still call me Michael James. Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, does Alyssa call you Michael James?
She's calling me Michael.
Yeah. But that whole group of friends, like that I met him through, like
everyone
all
calls
called
Michael
James.
I'm always jealous of people that do have nicknames because I have such a short name, like the name Brett. You can't come up with
there's
a
not too
nickname
much
for that,
going on.
But
I just use it, like I said, people use abbreviations, and they call me MV a lot. Like my last name is Volkmer, so it's MV.
You know, talking about names though, you are the only Simone I have ever met in my entire life.
I think that is true. To be honest. I don't think I have met another Simone yet. I feel like I've known.
I've met a few. I've met few, like one that spells her name with it Simone and then Symone. I've met. Through playing basketball and things like that.
Right, yeah.
I met a bunch.
I met a bunch of Ryans.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things that's kind of tough.
Yeah,
that's one of the things kind of tough because like names are like really defining features, right? Like I think that everyone has a moment where they look at themselves as like, oh yeah, that's what Ryan means. That's what Michael means. You know what I mean? But when I see like so many different Ryans, I'm like, whoa, like that's so weird. Like I'm calling that person Ryan. He doesn't like they remind me of a Ryan. So. It's weird having a common name,
Different variations.
It is. I've always said, like, damn, I hate common names. I'm never going to name my daughter or my son a common name ever, like, or not. But, like, I don't hate it now.
You have, like, probably one of the most common names. Michael?
Even in my office at my job, there's 3 Michaels. So it's like, we have to have, like, different names.
It's weird, though, how people from the United States do names in comparison to other countries, because I know, like, a lot of, like, Asian countries, and I would assume, I think also African countries, they make names based on, like, how they feel or, like, certain, like, impactful things that happen in their lives,
you know? What do you mean?
Well, I know like a lot of Japanese people name like a lot of like their kids either something that's like an event or I'm trying to use a good example, but I mean I know that they name their kids based on certain things that they feel or like there's certain aspects that really differentiate them.
Like mile markers or
no, I wouldn't even say mile markers. Like it's just the way that they interpret names have more of a meaning to them than they do for people in the United States.
So actually, I do know one of these things.
We were talking about this with Darnell because he was saying understand how like names are a huge defining feature in other countries.
So, well, actually, talking about Japanese, I think that there is
He's
some
been
there's some truth to that. Japanese is one of the two languages I'm learning. Two of the languages I want to learn, which actually the two of them are Japanese and French. And right now, I'm really close to learning French all the way. Like I've got my reading and writing is like, I'd say advanced level. Like I'm very good at reading and writing. I could probably read a book right now in French.
Well, tell me what you do with Darnell. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah. Well, but the problem that I'm having right now is listening and speaking.
Yeah.
It's that's everyone who's kind of gone through the language learning process understands those are the last two pillars. And I'm getting a little bit better at listening, but my speaking is not that great. So one of the things I'm trying to practice is I call one of our friends, Darnell. I call him every day we tried to do, but it ends up being like every 2 or 3 days, where we try to have a brief 5-minute conversation in French. It's raw.
That's dope.
It's just
That's dope.
yeah. It's good.
Sure.
It's a good
It's
way
all
to
about
That's the best
practice.
way.
Yeah.
I mean,
And get
it's
yourselves
real time,
immersed in
too,
it.
you know?
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, with Darnell is he speaks Creole because he's from Haiti. Well, his parents are from Haiti,
Yeah.
and he spoke that time, which is like a loosely form of French. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but
dope.
it is really helpful for the learning process. I think one thing that might help us is, having someone else there who could almost be like, oh no, this is the right way to say it, because we're gonna develop our own method of
slang.
speaking. Yeah, it'll be like our slang, which is fine, but I think that at some stage that'll be important.
No, for sure.
But it's definitely helping with the listening and the speaking, so that's fun.
What were you gonna say about Japanese?
Yeah, so to bring it back to Japanese,
Sorry about that,
got a
Take it
little
a tangent.
off touch. Not good. With Japanese, it's really cool because they have 3 different writing systems. They have hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Hiragana is kind of like syllables. It's like a consonant and a vowel, but it's represented by one symbol. And they combine those together to make their words or their sentences, and a lot of it is just putting those together and reading it straight up. It's very easy to understand once you understand what each syllable is. Katakana is the same thing, except for that it's used strictly for foreign words. So words that are not from Japan. Like if you were to say America, right? You'd spell America out using katakana. Kanji is kind of where it goes into what Brett was saying about people's last names is there's a big emphasis on art in Japan, and they really care about it in all aspects of their life, even with their kanji. The kanji itself tells a story, and some people have the last name that corresponds to rice field, because the people used to work in the rice fields, and so their last name would look like the kanji of rice field. And I don't know if I said this before, but kanji is just like a summarization of the hiragana. So you would have your hiragana that you could sound out, but then
consonant and syllable, right?
yeah, the consonant syllable thing, and then it would take all of the things that would make up that word and then condense it into one symbol, so it's less writing. But those kanjis are really pretty, so people like pretty symbols in their name, and that's where Japanese names kind of come from, is that they're really pretty symbols that sound nice as well. So they sound nice together, but they're also
My overall point was just I just feel like a lot of other cultures have put more art into how they
Names.
name their, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not that I don't like our
No, I know
names.
what
I'm
you're
not
saying.
saying all our names stink. I'm just saying it's just interesting how our country has culturally done it in a very different way.
well, actually,
Because we're very fast with things.
it's really interesting because
We're like this
our
high
names,
caffeinated country.
a lot of the names that are in America / Europe kind of come from Catholicism and
Oh,
Catholic religion.
really?
Yeah, it's actually branches.
sense,
It's
actually.
branches. Yeah, it's branches of one name that was then distributed to multiple different names. There was a great example. I think Christian was the example, and it broke off to 1,000 different names.
Who told you this?
I watched a YouTube video on it. I watched a YouTube video on it, and then they explained it in detail, and I was like, wow, it's kind of interesting. So then I looked it up, and I was reading more about this, and I was like, this is insane. Like all of these names came from this one base name.
But that makes sense though, as it being something that all people follow and everything that look up to, and
right.
I'm gonna name my child.
Well, the thing is that the Michael was probably one of the most common in the Bible, and I'm thinking, yeah, that makes sense.
But too, and I heard, I guess I don't know what's whatever. I don't know what systems and everything else, but names like Jacobson, Robertson, they're usually named that because they are the son of someone who is that name, like Peterson. Like my father was Peter, so now I'm Peter Peterson. You know what I mean?
Oh. Yeah. That is actually kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Because I actually did always wonder kind of where some of those names came from, because it felt like it had some origin, but it was like a little, but it was like extended like way more than you would expect. Like, oh, where did that come from? You know?
Yeah.
Weird. Yo, so let's transition from your mental, because talking about names and stuff and how you like, you say pick a name from someone. So that obviously depends on what your mental looking like. Mm-hmm. What's your mental looking like? Like what do you see? What do you see?
What do you mean today?
What's going on? No, what's your mental looking like?
What, right now?
Yeah, no, just
overall.
Life.
You know?
Overall.
In general?
Yeah.
Like from last week to now?
No, in
Are
general.
we switching it up?
Life. Yeah, I'm switching it up.
Are you doing well or bad?
Was this like the ratings question? Because I'm doing good. I'm still good.
1 through 10, Simone.
Okay. I didn't know. This was like a different entry into this one.
No.
I would say, look, I completed my goal. I told you this. So I'm like at a 9.5.
Where were you at last week?
High.
Oh, 9.5.
Yeah, I was at like
Golly,
What was your goal?
I think I was at an 8 or something.
What was your goal? You said you completed
Because
your goal.
I was going to, so
This is a weekly goal, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Through the first few pods, I was trying to find like bartending gig. Like, so I was looking for jobs in like Brooklyn and things like that. And then I was
They make
just
good money.
Yeah, but and then so we have a bar here, but the problem was is that like people didn't know it was here. We have seltzer, we have wine, we have all this and everything else. And so I don't know, I was working a Sunday and just got the idea to like back corner bar, whatever. That sounds cool. I started drawing a sign and then I just got all of these ideas to do it. And then I'm like, you know what? Why not me just start and create something here today and do that?
Right.
So the last pod, I was like, all right, fuck it. Like, I'm just gonna do it and see, do a soft opening at the end of the week. So I did a soft opening at the end of the week. All my niggas held me down. Came through. We had pizza, good vibes, karaoke.
Yeah, we were having a great time.
Now I'm gonna
Wow.
implement events and stuff into that. And people were coming in today and were like, "Oh, I heard you got a bar open now." I'm like, "Well, we've always had it." But,
so bring the alcohol.
I'm good right now. I'm gonna ride the high.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good that you have a vision too. I mean, making your weekly goals or monthly goals or whatever kind of really helps break apart this huge problem, because I feel like that everyone questions like, oh, how do you make progress? And that's really the best way to do it.
You know what gets me really pissed though? Well, you know what gets me pissed though about that weekly goal thing? Like, I remember in school, like there was a guy who came in like at like an auditorium telling us like, yeah, the best way to accomplish things is to set weekly goals. And I remember sitting in the auditorium and I was like, this guy is so full of shit. and the fact that he's right, it makes me so mad. It makes me so mad because now I do things like, oh, I got weekly goals, I got daily goals, like I got things I need to accomplish slowly to accomplish a greater thing.
It does help you break up.
I know, but like, I hate when old ass people be right. Damn.
Well, they're. Yeah,
I know.
They learn. Not everything they say is right, but I think that they learn from experience. Yeah.
And you have too much animosity toward. Well, I used to have too much animosity towards like authority, so that was a big problem I had.
In terms of boomers, though, I'm listening to boomers. Anybody that
I mean,
do hard work. No. With like views and perspective, like, all right, we gotta talk, but like hard work and determination and like persistence and getting stuff done.
Yeah, I wish I like adopted like organizational skills at a younger age, because right now, like doing research, one of the things that I struggled with is keeping like a good log of all my experiments, and so I had to like create a folder and like actually put my work together in like an organized way, and I was like, man, like this is like hard for me, but like if I like actually paid attention to how this was important when I was younger, I was like, this wouldn't have been a big deal.
I mean, the way you do stuff is nobody could do it. You guys do not understand how this man functions. Like, first off,
that's
I don't even know how to put it together, but like he gets all this stuff done somehow. I mean, he's an aerospace engineer, which is by definition a rocket scientist. So doing all the stuff that he does, if he explained to you in a day how he fits it all into one schedule, you'd be like, I don't know how you did that. First off, I don't even know how he eats, because he doesn't eat sometimes. I do eat. I do eat.
Actually.
Hold on. No, he didn't buy food for a while, and the little snack he was eating was rice, chili flakes, honey, and what was the other thing?
No.
And peanut butter.
Stop. It was rice, peanut butter, honey, and then it wasn't chili flakes. It was chili powder.
I'm sorry, my bad.
But like you mix it together.
It's not good.
It tasted pretty good to me.
No, it's not.
All right, listen. When you're like when you don't have like a lot of money because you're in grad school, like you got to figure something out. And like I felt like it got all the food groups in there, right? Got protein.
You did what you had to do. But the thing I'm interested in is the rocket science, aerospace engineer thing. So
how's your week been looking? You've been kind of chill lately.
Well, right now I'm kind of in a chill phase, and I can get into that a little bit. I'll just touch on it. That research. This is actually a quote that I got to cite one of my like lab mates for this, because this is a great quote, but it's so true about a PhD. Is that it's 20% skill 80% external factors. And what I mean by that is, you know, you can be as smart as you want and you'll be able to actually get work done, but to get work out there, published, and you know, put yourself on that stage requires, you know, you to have the equipment to run experiments. Not in your, like, that's funding. Like, that's not on me. That's actually on, like, my advisor, my school, everything like that. Also, the review process of your papers. For a lot of labs, including mine, I write the paper, I pass it off to a lab mate, he reads the paper, he passes it off to my advisor, he reads the paper, he passes it off to the journal, they read the paper, and through that process it's constantly coming back to me with reviews to change until it's ready to be published. So that process can take 8 months, 10 months of just back and forth. And in that time of waiting for somebody to read your work, you're just waiting. Yeah. And right now, when, you know, Brett says, like, I'm kind of not doing much right now with respect to it, is really, I have 3 papers that are in this pipeline, just going out and coming back, and I'm just in the phase where someone else has it. So in that time, the only thing that I can do is wait. And I can try to work on things ahead of time, but even then, like, I have to set up the experiments for that stuff, and that I also have to wait on. So it's, and this is where, you know, it's really helpful to kind of plan ahead, because I'm thinking, like, okay, yes, I can't do stuff right now, but I can come up with my plan for the future. I can figure out, like, okay, when things start coming into action, what do I need to do, and how do I organize my stuff? And that's really what I've been paying attention to at this point in time. But that's kind of like a side note thing.
There's actually a lot of irony, though, because, like, all the work that he does, and obviously right now he's in more of, like, a calmer period, but all the work he does eventually hits a point where he doesn't really have much to do because he has to wait. And we also forget, like, a lot of the things that you want to do in life in general is, like, there's going to be a lot of waiting periods.
There's a time delay.
Yeah, and the thing is that sucks specifically for me is I am the most impatient person imaginable. And I've been told that by everybody, and the moment I realized that, the moment I was just kind of like, oh crap. And the weird part is I actually realized that too when I was working up in Buffalo for a marketing company. I would be done with all my stuff. I emailed like 500 people and they all said, we'll get back to you in like a week. And I'm like, well, I can't.
What do I do for the week?
I literally am talking, I'm like talking to my boss on the phone. I'm like, well, what do I do now? He's like, oh, like make up some spreadsheets. Spreadsheets of what? I have to wait till they get back to me. So I feel like a lot of people don't, you know, interpret like.
I think that you know, with every like thing that someone could say like is a weakness, also comes with some strengths too.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think like with what you're saying, like your impatience, right? I think that actually is a strength for you a lot of the time. Because
I agree. 100%.
I think that it allows you to kind of put pressure on other people, you know, to get the work done and
take initiative.
And for yourself, and for yourself, actually like set up your life so that you're doing the things that you want to do. You know what I mean? Like
there's always a catch.
Like, oh, I don't want to wait. Like I got to do this. Learning how to wait is important. Yeah. But at the same time, like with your degree of impatience, I think that it's actually like a good tool, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's the only, I would say the biggest downside is I'm always wanting more, but that's a discussion for a whole other time. I mean, you know, wanting more and then looking back on the past, I'm always stuck in between the two. And that's the most painful thing because you look at life, you have that one brief moment where you kind of blink back into life and you're just like, crap, I don't want to miss this. Yeah. And I hate that. I had that last night because we did a party for a friend and we actually never really celebrated his birthday before.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy.
Which was kind of messed up when we think about it.
No, you think about school and then like.
But I mean, I was happy and it's weird because we were just out having a good time and like you just blink. It's just a weird thing that happens to me where I just kind of blink all of a sudden and like I just kind of like assess everything. And I'm very happy, and I want to experience more of those moments in my life because not to be like, oh, when we get older we don't experience those anymore. I actually think we do experience them more, but I think the problem is we forget to acknowledge them.
Yeah.
You know,
meditate at all?
You know, everyone's been telling me to do that. I used to do it, and then I stopped.
So actually, I kind of have a story with meditation. My girlfriend like meditates, and she understands like I'm a very stressed out guy. Like I'm always doing stuff all the time. Like I'm constantly filling my schedule, and she's like my biggest motivator to like actually stop and live in the moment. And so she's gotten me a bit into meditation. She does it a lot, and she says that there's a lot of good things that have come out of it for her. So I mean, I don't know. Have you guys ever meditated? Like,
yeah,
I have not actually. No.
I've tried to make it a regular thing because I would get really anxious. There's a spider hanging over there. I would get really anxious, like when I started working. And I was trying to, you know, find my way out. This is the first time I'm back as a student. Now, like, all right, my paycheck is on the line, you know. So I don't know really where it stemmed from, but I would have to, like, calm myself down before I would go into the office, and it was just a horrible work environment on top of that. So that's when I got into it, and it helped me like realize when I'm feeling anxious and why I'm feeling anxious. You know what I mean? So it stops you in that moment. And they also give you, I use Headspace, the app.
Yeah, I've seen that app. Yeah,
they give you a lot of different techniques to just manage your thoughts, because at the root of it, it's really just the things that you're thinking that turn into a story or whatever it is. But they give you a lot of different techniques to like stop your thoughts in your tracks. A lot of people feel physical pain too when they get anxious. You know,
I get really bad anxiety.
Yeah, and you like tense up, and it's like, how do I like move?
Yeah, I had my first panic attack like 3 weeks ago. Yeah,
coffee doesn't help that, by the way.
It does not.
First panic attack, but I'll say this though, doesn't it kind of bother you though that the time that you're wasting meditating?
Wasting. That's.
I guess you're right. That's not the right word. You're right. You're right.
Mr. Impatient.
Exactly. what I'm trying to say.
That's where it's coming out. That's
the
negative side of that.
That's my negative side of it. Because I don't listen. I'm not saying I don't look down on meditation at all. I think it's actually a very great form. But and Ryan is this too, and I'm surprised that he is getting into meditation. But I'm all about optimizing time because there is a lot of things that I want to accomplish within this 24-hour time span. I mean, me and Ryan have been saying this since we were like 8 years, even younger, probably like 5. Like, there's not enough time in the day.
Well, you know? to compound on that, actually, one of the reasons why I see like meditation as a good way of actually making that a reality is it adds another wrinkle to the discussion, which is that efficiency is key.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
So when you're working throughout your day. I heard this quote somewhere. I honestly, I need to be better about knowing where my quotes came from. I gotta cite these things. I gotta cite these quotes.
You gotta get
one of these quotes was it was like humans are more like lions than gazelles, right? Yeah. Where the way that they work is more like in sprints rather than in like a long distance run. And you see that when it comes to like an 8-hour workday, right?
Especially in America.
I think that I work a lot. I honestly, there's days where I work like honestly all 16 hours that I'm awake because I'm doing a bunch of crap.
He's not kidding.
But the thing is that no human being can work that amount straight. You know what I mean? And even work that amount in like large intervals. Like even 4-hour intervals are a lot of time. So one of the keys to efficiency in my mind is working for an hour and then taking like a 15-20 minute break. You know what I mean? And just letting yourself totally escape the moment. Yeah. You know what I mean? And just say not the moment, but escape the work and live in the moment. You know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so meditation adds to that. Is like kind of like that's your way to kind of say like, no, I'm putting myself first. Like I'm going to live in this moment right now because if I don't do that, then my next hour won't be efficient. And I care about me as the individual, not like the person that's telling me I have to work consistently. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have my own types of forms of meditation. I like to believe. I mean, I use working out a lot. I feel like that relieves a lot of stress.
Yeah, I feel like what you're saying right now, there's so many different ways you can do that.
Right.
Because if I were to like, take a 15-minute, like, so say when I'm at work, if I take 15 minutes to just like tap out of what I'm doing, I feel like I'm still going to in the back of my head like, okay, I got to get back to this.
Right.
So I'm not fully tapping in, but there's different ways where I can be like, okay, let me completely not think about this so I can get back and be more efficient at that.
Right.
I've been doing a lot of walking.
That's good.
Yeah. It was my girlfriend who actually was like inspired me to start walking because she walks her dogs a lot, and I'm like, oh man, I don't want to walk. Like I want to do something else. But the weird thing is though, when you do walk and you're outside and you're like taking everything going on in like nature, you actually feel better, which is another thing old people told me, and I was so mad. It's right. But no, I'm
gonna take you to this one spot and have you just sit there and stare at a waterfall.
I'm glad. No, I mean,
you can probably benefit from that.
Just think about his life for a little bit.
After I started walking, I actually read an article about a guy. He was a business owner who was like really overweight. He was obese, and he, instead of like pounding weights at the gym or anything, he just started walking a mile in the morning, and then he like constantly added more like distance, and now he's like shredded because apparently when you're walking, you actually can have a better pace of breathing than you would sprinting sometimes. Not saying that sprinting won't help you lose weight, but if you're looking for a comfortable way to lose weight and you want to exercise, walking's one of the best forms because it's almost a meditative way of breathing. And the way you lose weight, do you know it's not through sweating, it's through breathing. It's oxygen going out. That's energy. That. Yeah, I found this out. It's energy being released when you breathe. Obviously, I don't want anyone who listens to this just start to hyperventilate. It doesn't work like that. You can't just go.
Brett is not an actual doctor. Please do not take his medical
so you can't do that. That doesn't work. But when you're walking or you're doing anything, it could be even like moving furniture or just pacing. Look, meditation, when you're pacing your breathing, like that helps relieve.
Same with yoga.
Yoga.
I fuck with yoga. Yeah. That's what I can fuck with.
Yeah.
My mom loves that too.
But like when I think of meditation, like I said, there's so many different.
But there are ways. Yeah, there are different ways that you can manage those thoughts. You do it, through working out, or you do it through taking walks or whatever. But
me and my girlfriend have a discussion about what meditation really is. You know what I mean? And I think on paper, it's sitting still and just like escaping and just
mentally escaping.
Yeah, mentally escaping. And actually, it's finding ways to silence your mind. Right? That's what it really is. But I think that what you were kind of saying. I that's mostly my argument. Is kind of like meditation doesn't have to be stillness. You know what I mean? It's just got to be stillness of the mind. Mm-hmm. So it's like
you can away from anything that you're doing that brings you stress.
Yeah, and I think because I always like to think with like sprinting because I one of my main modes of working out is sprinting. It's I think a very efficient way because you're explosive. It doesn't take a lot of time. Obviously, it's exhausting, but if you can get yourself in condition to do it, it's just one of the faster ways to continue staying in shape.
It excites you.
Yeah, and it's exciting, but. When in doing that, I feel like when I'm in the middle of a workout, I enter this almost meditative state where I become what sprinting is. I'm no longer like Ryan Wynn, right? Mm-hmm. I am sprinting in that moment, you know what I mean? And that makes me feel like that I've like kind of escaped the weird
like air.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just saying like the pressure of my life that's constantly coming in just like gets pushed away, and I'm just like I'm not that person right now. I'm like here,
no, I know what you're feeling.
So
yeah, I feel that when I go to jiu-jitsu and like people are like trying to like choke each other out, like when someone's like got you in like a strangle, you're like, well, nothing else matters. Just getting out of this, like that's always a good feeling. But I mean, I wanted to actually go back to what you were saying about like optimizing your work in an efficient way. Something that I realized, and I was having this discussion with, I forgot who it was. It was a friend of ours, but it was it was our Darnell's friend Sanzo.
Oh, Sanzo.
And he just started working for another guy, and they're starting like a business, it's a marketing firm. They're doing well and everything, but he has this like grind every day, like 24/7, like nonstop, never gonna like stop moving. We always got to keep going. And I told him like you can't do that. I used to be like that, and it's not gonna get you anywhere because you're just gonna constantly just sprinting into a wall. And this is the thing. And a lot of people don't tell you this, and I didn't learn this from any old last person, no offense. I learned this actually on my own, and no one's ever really told me this, is that you can't give your absolute maximum, and you can't give your absolute minimum. You literally have to find that middle ground. Because when you're doing very little, you're not going to accomplish anything. Mm-hmm. If you're doing too much, you're going to forget everything that you're supposed to be doing, and you're going to realize
cut yourself thin.
You're going to explode.
You're going to explode, literally explode. But when you keep a constant middle, like you're fine. I hate to use Elon Musk as like a reference here because I don't really love the guy, but he did say something that I did like. He said motivation lasts a maximum of 10 minutes. So you watch like a motivational video, or you get inspired by friends or family, like you can do it. Like that's 10 minutes. What is that going to do for you? Like you're not going to accomplish anything. So if you find that average level of like excitement and you just keep that consistent, then you're fine. And I try to get everyone who's like wants to get into working out, I tell them like it's not about like blowing out your legs or blowing out your arms at the gym. Like you literally just have to do something where you feel like you got tired, leave, and just do the same thing tomorrow.
Well, that's
the
thing. Consistency,
and that's with everything.
In all aspects.
Yeah,
for sure. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
And that's like one of the things that I feel like people never grasp onto is I never. There you go. You got it. But I think like that's like something that no one really grasps onto. Is consistency. Is and that's obvious, right? Everyone wants like a get rich fast or get fit fast type thing, which it's like. It doesn't even have to be hard. Like it just means you just got to do something all the time, and then you become it. You know what I mean?
Agree.
Yeah.
I always said that, like, growing up too, like, even like reference it to sports, like you can have a 50-point game and then the whole rest of the season you're scoring 2 points. Like, that's not consistent. You're not a good player.
Yeah.
But if you're scoring 15 points, 20 points every game, you're a consistent player. People want you on your team. You're known. You know?
Yeah.
But if you're just out here radically scoring 2 points and then I score 40 points and then I score 4 points, you know, it's like you're not consistent. You're like there's nothing that I can get from you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying the weird part was for the longest time was never able to translate that consistency to anything besides working out. Like it wasn't until last year, I would say, where I started realizing like this consistency stuff works with my stuff.
This consistency stuff.
Well, shit. It works. I was explaining to Michael James about how when I started to learn how to program about a year and a half ago, like I was locked in a room with COVID and I just started like doing it. I had a picture. Because I was gonna create like my own app. It was like this idea about basically Twitter for positive encouragements. That was the idea. It was kind of weird, but I was like I graphically designed how I wanted it to look, and I said, all right, well, with the basic programs of HTML and CSS, my brother was like saying, here's where you can get all this information online, and see what you can do with it. So in my head, I was like, all right, if I can paint this picture that I drew, then I can do anything. Yeah. So in the 3 days, I was like, I just got to be consistent. Like day one, I was like, all right, let's break this down into the small goals. Can I do the top? Let me see if I can make the top bar. All right, I did it. All right, let me see if I can make the middle. I did it. All right, let me see if I can make the bottom. And by the end of the 3 days, it was all done. And I was like, oh crap, like I can do this. Like this is stuff I can do. So once that like clicked, I was consistent with it, almost obsessively at a point. And I was telling this to you as well, Simone, was like I've been programming like 8 hours a day for the past year now, because it's just you just got to stay with it. You got to keep going, keep going. And what more can I build?
And I mean, like to bounce on that, I mean that was really a turning point for you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I think
I could tell, not to cut you off, when we were talking before this pod, I could tell like how you're like, yes, I did that, and now I can continue to do that.
It was a huge moment for me. You guys have no idea, you know?
You remember when we went out to Fetch and you were telling me how you just started during COVID and you were like, your eyes were bright and everything.
Yeah.
I remember the last time I had seen you, you were like, I fucking hate my life. I hate my job.
I was a very depressed kid, I'll tell you that.
Fuck this shit. I'm like, oh my God,
bad times, bad breath.
It was great, and you know, it's just the difference in doing something that you want to do, and you're staying consistent with it, but you were able to prove that to yourself during that. So
and that was the big
thing.
That was a big thing, and only just to compliment you on that. It's like I feel like a lot of your life you were constantly doubting like your technical skills.
Yes,
like it's like you were always like, oh,
you see your app.
Yeah, I did see it.
It's clean. Yeah. It's clean. He's and like I know. Look. I'm gonna be honest. Like I come from a programming background. Like it's not like I don't do any like real front end stuff, but I know programming. Like that's what I have to do. And in this field, he's better than me. You know. And it's like I think that that's really important for him to kind of see that he has that ability to be great at something. You know.
I said this to our friend last night, and I said this to Michael. I said the worst thing that I realized about programming is that I was able to do it the whole time.
Yeah,
it pissed me off.
It is a crazy thought.
It pisses me off because I look back at all
that heavy quote.
Well, no, because I look back at all the stuff that I'm like, because I have a list of things. I have this list that I wrote in 2018 saying like I wanted to compete in a martial arts competition. I wanted to learn how to like play an instrument. I wanted to make $1 million by the age of like 26, which I don't know if it's gonna happen. But hey, never doubt it. But like I look at and there's a couple other stuff that I had on there, but like playing an instrument, I can do that. I can learn how to do that. Why haven't I taken the initiative yet? And the only answer, and no matter how much I want to try, I'm just making excuses.
You are your own worst enemy.
Yeah. We make excuses, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we make excuses for a lot of the stuff we want to do. Like everything that we want to do, like, oh man, I want to do that. I want to do this. Like, let's do this. Let's go out and do that. We're making excuses like, oh, I'm not going to do that because I'm tired. I'm not gonna, which is okay to be tired. But I don't want to do this because this is in the way, or I can't do this because this it's just too much time. I don't have the time. Now I will say there's a lot of things I should add to that though. Is like it's okay to like make those excuses if you don't want to do that. Like it's okay. It's okay. You know, but you can't also be telling everybody around you like, oh man, like I want to do this, and then you're not doing anything about it.
You're not doing anything about it
because I was a huge person like that. And I look back and I wish I wasn't like that. But hey, you go through these processes.
You can only take responsibility for the awareness that you have at the time. So now that you see that, you just move for it, and that's fine.
And I should also add that I have a very fortunate lifestyle. Like, this is something that I've always wanted to say to people is that if I were to ever become successful in my life financially, I would never say that I was self-made. I don't think anyone's actually self-made. Because I think everyone gets help from like someone else.
We were talking about the supportive
like
system.
the support
back.
system.
You need that support
It's massive.
system.
And you know what's crazy though? Like if you go through like any like a lot of motivational stuff, either through school or even online, they always say you're alone, like you got nobody. I don't believe that's actually true.
Oh my gosh! Actually,
believe it's true at all.
I'm gonna to bounce off that. Actually, like literally yesterday. So I was in New York City, right, and I was supposed to be going to my friend's birthday party at night, right? And it was like at 8 o'clock, but he had to spend the entire day with like his family and his girlfriend's family and stuff like that. And I honestly like didn't make plans. I was like, oh, I was just gonna hang out with my sister. But my sister just got back from Mexico, and I know she like had a bunch of stuff that she had to do around the house to clean, do laundry, and I was like, oh, I'll get out of her hair. And then I realized like I have a lot of friends in New York City, and I can reach out to any of them and kind of see what's going on. And I actually ended up hanging out with like 6 or 7 of my friends, just like bouncing around being like, oh, this person's free now, this person's free now. And I just had this whole day of like using my resources and using my like friendships like to fill my time and also like continue building those friendships more and more and more. But it's just weird when you start thinking about it, like these connections you make really do help you or really do like make your life better in the long run.
I guess you could argue like you're the one that makes those connections, so then you're the one that creates those opportunities. But I don't believe that entirely, because everyone also makes their conscious decision why they help you or why they love you in that way.
Exactly.
I mean, we especially, I think we have a massive support system. And I know this right now specifically because I'm very low financially and I got my family helping me. I have friends that are like offering me, hey, do you need money? Like all this stuff. And I'm not one to ever take like any financial help except from I guess my parents, because they force it upon you because they don't want you to suffer. And I'm fortunate that I have good parents like that, because I know a lot of people that don't.
It's so good that you understand that though, because a lot of people do not understand that, and it's so important.
I try not to take it for granted, because that's one of the biggest like fears I have is like I have to remember like there's people that care for me. I mean, to quote, I don't know if you guys ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, but there's a quote. There's a quote from a character named Uncle Iroh. He says like, "There's nothing wrong with letting the people who love you help you." And there's
it's heavy.
It is because
such a big lesson. Go ahead.
But it's true, because I regret it, because when I graduated from college, I was like, I gotta help pay my parents back. Like they did so much to help me. Like I feel like it's my duty to give them a better life. Like there's nothing I could do, and I was stressing myself so out. Like I was barely spending money. There was a time me and him ate like chickpeas and beans because we wanted to save money. We like literally ate that for like 2.5 weeks because we just wanted to keep saving money. And like
we had a 1 week, just a quick interjection. We had actually it was like 3 weeks. We spent like $30. It was like $30, right? It was like $30 on groceries that lasted us like 3 weeks or something. Like that.
3 weeks, almost a month. It was crazy. We ate terribly.
We do not condone that. No. You don't need to do that.
And I was like, we did it. And we were also like working out, so we were dying. But
rationing.
But that was the big thing that like I was just stressing myself out, and I like was crying actually to my mom, and because I was just so broken down. I was like, I'm sorry that I can't be what you wanted me to be, like be this like successful person to help you out, to create a better life for you. And not that my parents have a bad life, but as kids we want to give our parents a better life, I mean. And my mom was like, why are you stressing yourself out? All I care about as your mother is that I want you to be the best that you can be. And I was crying even more, and I was just like, I'm sorry. And I told her like I was regretting, I always was afraid that if I died tomorrow, I would regret all the things I was doing. And she's like, why do you keep thinking about if you died tomorrow? You should start thinking about what would you do if you lived tomorrow? And what are the things that you can do? Because she hated seeing me depressed when I was working in Buffalo,
man.
I was violently...
I feel that. When Brett is sad, like, it's like sad.
I always said this. I always said this about Brett.
No, I get pretty dark. I get way too dark.
I always said this about Brett. He has this, like, superpower that's, like, he can control the emotion of the room. Like, if Brett's happy... Everyone's happy. If Brett's sad, everyone's sad.
I can definitely see that.
Right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I think that being close brothers, like we have the different things that we provide in a social setting, and that's just something I was like, I don't understand it. Like I don't understand.
No, you get that too, though. No, you
to some
definitely
degree,
get that too.
I can bring hype. I know. I have that energy.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's just like the way that people are just drawn to the way Brett is when we're both in the same room. I'm always just like, wow, like what is he doing? And like gets him to do this, but it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, it's
I love
funny
it.
because we go about things so differently. Like me and Ryan are parallels. Like Ryan is this guy who he was very smart in high school, middle school, college. Like everything came to Ryan easy, and I'm not taking any of his credit from him. Like Ryan worked very hard when he ran in high school. Like he was one of our top runners. He made it to states and stuff. And me, I didn't really care about athletics at all. Like I went through life very like nonchalant and casual. But my whole approach to things was just wait for this opportunity and just make sure you capitalize it. I'm a very big gambler. That's my life. And I'm not condoning gambling to anybody because I think it's a massive addiction, a massive problem. But I think though,
do it within your means.
What works for me is what works for me. What works for Ryan, what works for Ryan.
$50,000 work for you?
No, I'll tell you, there's a different level of depression. There's a depression of like your life, you feel like unfulfilled with everything, and then there's losing money that like you worked hard for in seconds, and you're like, holy crap! Like you feel like zero. That's the only way to say it. You see the bank account, you see yourself, you're just like, I am zero.
I am zero.
But listen. I mean, we're all. I think a big thing about that though is it does put in perspective, and maybe I'm only saying it to make myself feel better. But like, money really is not everything. I mean,
no, it isn't everything.
The quote I heard about this again, don't know the guy, but it's a really good one, which is that money can only buy you happiness when it takes you out of poverty. If you're going from well off to just more well off, money's not going to do it. Money's not going to do it. It's going to be your impact on the world.
When I mean money's like isn't everything, I don't want to also be cliche. Like if I had $500,000 right now, I'd be freaking happy as hell.
If it tips your line, if it changes your lifestyle,
well, that's what I'm saying.
Completely.
Like if it takes you out of that, I can now survive on my own thing. Like that's like.
But there should be another thing too, because there was a guy I was following on LinkedIn that I don't even know why I was following. First off, I hate LinkedIn. I hate it so much, and I'm not even getting into a rant about that. But I hate that social. I don't even want to call it social media. That piece of crap, fake shit. I hate that thing. I'm sorry. Oh my God. But the thing is, there was a guy on there. He was like, I stopped being friends with all my friends, stopped going out, which is fine if you don't go out, like as long as your words up. But he's like, like all my friends were just holding me down, like I'm just focused on myself. I'm like, well, all right. And he's like, now he claims that he's making like $100,000 like a year now, and he's like, I'm so much happier by myself. And I'm like, dude, I don't know about that. Like, I can't imagine being successful without people.
Now, I will say, I'm gonna throw like a devil's advocate thing on there, just like a real quick kind of thought. Is that I don't think a lot of people have the network we have. You know what I mean? I think that we think about friends maybe slightly differently than a lot of other people think about friends.
100%.
That is very true.
About friends.
I think that you should.
I think
you
about
should,
friends as almost like family.
Yeah, you should love them like their family, and I think that.
To actually, I want to use a quote that Simone said to me years ago. Was that just because someone's blood doesn't mean you have to love them, and sometimes the people who aren't blood, you love them more. You said that to me. I don't know if you remember that.
Sounds about right.
But it was so true though, and that has resonated with me for a long time.
Yeah. But I think that's really true with like respect to your friends. Like if you treat them like their family, which we do a lot.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Like,
I can see that you guys do.
Yeah, I think the one
accommodating. Everyone gets to feel like happy and comfortable.
And I think one of the things that I know that I definitely put emphasis on. I don't know if you do the same thing. I'm sure you do. Which is that like even if I'm not talking to you, like we even talked about before, I haven't talked to you in like a year and a half. It's like. I'm always thinking about my friends. Like they're always on my mind. I go through literally like so many periods where I'm like, oh yeah, that reminds me of this person. Yeah. I might not call them. I might not like say anything about them, but you guys are there. You're always there. Yeah. And I think like even though you don't say it, there's almost like a feeling that person cares. And that kind of creates these really good friendships that last forever. And creating the network that we have, being so close in age, like he has his group that are then merged with my group, I have my group that then merges with his group, that creates the bigger network, which is why when we look at friends as like
I guess you're right, that's a good point.
Very different.
Because I do know some people that have a very bad like circle of friends.
Oh, for sure, and that's toxic. It'll bring you down.
And once again, goddamn old people. They said that they're like the people you surround yourself with make up like who you are and how you.
So my mom has always said this growing up, and I never believed her. And I always said, I swear, she literally always said, "You are who your friends are." And when I grew up, growing up, I'm like. That doesn't make sense. I'm me. Like, I don't care who I hang out with. I'm me. It's like, no. You are who your friends are. But now growing up, it's like, and she always just said like, if you're with a group of people that like are stealing something, you're getting accused for it too. Exactly. And I growing up, obviously as a kid, never understood it, but now it's like it literally is.
It's so
like,
true.
It is. Because it's like no matter what you're doing in life, if your friends around you are doing it, you're going to be doing that as well. Like even if you're not consciously doing it, you're doing it. Like,
I think though also to resonate a little deeper with that too, I think it's more with character. You know, like I know some people that, you know, they work whatever job they want to work, but they're just very chilled people. And I know my parents sometimes don't like people who are like extremely lax, like not to like downplay some of my friends, but some of them, they're very big potheads, and there's nothing wrong with that. I who doesn't love marijuana? But in the context of that, you look at them and I have no problem with them. They get their work done, they do what they need to do, and their character is fine.
Yeah.
Like the people, I'd rather be around someone who's got great character than be around some rich asshole who's who treats people like crap.
Couldn't agree more.
Right. You know,
it's fake versus real. You know what I mean? It's fake versus real.
I don't even have to say rich. Let's just say just a
no,
random
I get what you're
asshole.
saying.
You know,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I don't want the energy.
Ideas too. Like I guess all other parents too. Like I know my mother in particular was like, oh, what does this one want to do? Whenever I would bring friends around, that they get the profile on them. What do they?
Yeah, I know. I don't like that.
Like, in the beginning, I'm like, okay, I understand. How
as long as they're not slinging crack, you know?
Exactly. And as you get older, you start to see what values and people that you like and you want to gravitate to and everything. But it's not so much about like, okay, maybe I do drink too much alcohol, but also I'm really, over here doing really great things, right?
Yeah, exactly,
Or, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be one determining factor to
be,
You could be a great person and love weed, like you said. You know what I mean?
I think it's about keeping an open mind, right?
Yeah,
I think
100%.
And I think as we honestly, I think generationally, I think generations that follow have more open minds than the ones previously.
They say too, because after the generation before us, they were just taught to put their head down and work and everything. And so since our generation is now kind of living off of their accomplishments, we have more time to think about like, all right, what is it that what we want to do? What is it that we like? We have more time to process the things that they didn't. I had this interesting thought. I don't know how much truth there is behind this, but I think it's good for discussion almost, where you think about generations before us, right? And they had a technology that defined their generation. Like you say, like television.
Radio. Radio, yeah, or like microwave, something like that. Just like it's like, okay, that was big, right? Mm-hmm. Our generation was the first generation, because of the speed of technology, that we didn't experience a piece of technology. We experienced the evolution of technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went from literally every 3 years, like our phone changed. We had like a flip phone to like one with like a keyboard now, to then one with like now internet access. And then now we have like these like super devices in our hand. And every 3 years that was changing. And I think that opened up our minds to change, and we became more susceptible.
I say this to Ryan and my parents all the time. I say that I don't think our generation will ever fall behind societally, because we're always connected because of social media. Like that's the one positive thing. Like we'll never fall out of like the cultural norms or certain like inside jokes, or even just like how to relate to certain people around the world, because we're always connected.
Yeah.
Like the one thing that
makes the world smaller.
100%. And you feel more like you're involved. You know? Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of negative social media.
Everything has pros and cons.
But that's one of the positives I think gets overlooked. Like the funniest thing to me is how our parents told us, don't believe everything on the internet. And then we're like, okay. And then you hear all these old people believing everything on the internet. They don't even understand what memes. They don't even understand what memes are.
Their etiquette online is horrible. You know what I mean?
But that's the thing, though. I'm glad that we have this. We have this understanding, like Ryan was saying. Like I feel like it's good that we're more tied in. You know,
that's what I'm saying. Though our generation was defined by change in technology, just from that angle, like, right, we were defined by the change of our technology, not the technology itself, which is crazy.
That's interesting.
So
that you say it like that.
I never heard it like that.
I was just thinking the other day, and I was just talking to one of my friends, and we kind of just got there, So it was just something that has been on my mind, because I do think that there's some truth to that, and I wonder with continuing generations if that's going to be the case, And
I mean, it's here now. We have a basis for it and everything. It's just like, how are we going to use it to make the world a better place?
What's actually really interesting is I substitute at high school, middle school, and elementary school to make money on the side, and I'll tell you this: the younger generation is extremely progressive.
Really?
Like really progressive. Like you have a kid who's they're transitioning, like they want to be known as a male, and and they're all welcoming of it. There's no backlash. There's no. I mean, I don't know if there's any like underlying bullying that goes on in school, but it's nice to see that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like even just the fact that they're even kinder to each other in general, like talking about social media. Don't get me wrong, like kids can still be kids, but specifically the high school, I was impressed with. Like they were just very welcoming of any idea, whether it was
actually
like
really beautiful.
I know, I was surprised.
Because one of my like go-to quotes about like preaching stuff like that is I say, and it's kind of like a sad one, but you learn how to hate from the people you love.
Yeah.
Which is that like
I agree.
with like that's where how racism propagates, or that's how like what is it when you are against you're like homophobic, anything like that, like how that really propagates. Discriminatory. That's just the most general term, right? So being discriminatory I think starts from the top, right? But what's beautiful about what you're saying is almost like you see this turning point. Because you see this turning point, right?
Because of social media. I'm not kidding. Because you see these kids, they see all this bad stuff having to happen to a certain individual. And imagine being like 10 years old and you have a phone and you see some person who, let's say, is homosexual and they're getting beaten up.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I get like parents and other people saying like, I don't want my kids seeing this graphic stuff, but I'm actually in the opposition where I think, one, you can't stop it now because of phones. You just can't. Like this, like don't get me wrong. Like there's also another side of things where I saw like people who were like 11 years old like doing some weird twerking stuff like in school, and I'm like, you shouldn't be doing that. But then again, like times are changing. I still think it's weird.
They get it online or they would
exactly.
Friends.
So but the bright side to this though is they also see things that, as violent as they are, they look at it as like that is wrong. Like that is wrong. Like
that's a good point.
Because a parent will tell you something, and you're gonna try to create it in your head. But when you see it firsthand, your opinion will completely change. You're like, oh my god, like that's not good.
For sure.
I mean, look at like that whole documentary about like polluting the ocean. I mean, now we drink with straws that are cardboard. Well,
it is
a whole other discussion.
No, but to kind of bounce off that, like, and just with the whole social media thing, it's like the power of it is that things that you see online now have real impacts to our everyday life.
Right.
And like it for the good and for the bad, like for both sides of it. Yeah. But it's just wild because we're really in the wild west of that. You know what I mean? Like we think social media has been around for a while, but really in the grand scheme of things, it hasn't.
No, and in like the timeline of technology.
And the wild part is you think about like sociology, right? And like you studying groups of people. We were not developed to like interact with 7 billion people all at once. You know what I mean? Like I was reading, I don't know if you guys have read the book Sapiens. It's okay, so it's basically just a book that talks about the coming up of man and stuff like that. And there's a lot of research that supports that we really can only operate in sizes of 150 and less. It's just the way that our like brains can create those worlds, right? So it's like I can only feel a close connection to these people because my brain can only abstract that far. But then when you're trying to like create a company, obviously that's more than 150 people. But so when you're working in a company, we've developed such a system that works around that flaw in our minds, which makes it so that we don't have a close connection to these people directly, but we have a close connection to a common thought, which is like, this is our mission. We all connect to that, not to each other, which is got its pros and cons. I mean, we could talk about that at another time.
Well, I think this whole idea of like connecting each other, I think that was one of the biggest things that brought me and my brother to decide to make a social media of our own.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I know we wanted to get into that on this podcast, that me and my brother were creating a social media called College VS, or College Versus.
Yeah, let's get into that a little
bit.
Yeah,
where colleges compete in 5 different categories: parties, sports, dorms, clubs, and food. Where essentially kids would then post a video or an image in that said category, and they would get upvotes that would then rank them to see which college is the best in said category. And the way I came up with the idea is a little, I guess, vulgar in the sense, but I was home for winter break in 2018 or 2017.
No, it was 2016. 2016.
Oh, I didn't know it was that long ago.
Yeah,
Holy crap!
yeah.
You're right. It must have.
It was the winter of 2016 going into 2017.
We were in Monroe. That's why.
Yeah.
And I came home and I was sleeping, and this was when I was drinking way too much in college. But then who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Yeah.
I mean, Simone knows. She was still in.
Maybe.
But
maybe the Brett level's not what everyone goes for, but
anyways though, I kind of like had a dream that I was like, I wonder who could like shotgun a beer faster, me, who lived in SUNY Plattsburgh at the time, or my friend who lived in Oswego, and our schools had a rivalry. And that's when I kind of clicked with it. I was like, what if there was a website or a social media where it was a defined aspect of this certain experience you have in college. It's funny because that's kind of what Facebook was initially designed for. If anyone that's seen The Social Network, it was like, oh, like we want to connect all these kids from colleges to, you know, see what that life's going on. I want to recapture that experience, but I want to bring a level of gamification from it where you're now competing for it. Social media is this pretty much blatant, but nobody wants to admit it, competition. You know, but we want to make it apparent. That's why we have a leaderboard on our social media. We wanted to know, like, this is where you're ranked, you know? And it goes even deeper. Like, you're ranked within your school too. Like, if you're number one in your school, like, you know, you're the one who's posting, you're the one who's bringing recognition to your school. You are the main line. You're actually becoming more part of your school than you are actually going there.
Are you copyrighted? Because I don't know if we could put this out. I don't want to
we're copyrighted. We're copyrighted.
Love that.
We have all the legal stuff all down to a T.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, and this is another thing that I would like to add to anyone that creates an idea. You'd be surprised that nobody will realistically steal your idea.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot.
It is a crap ton of work. And I used to be that kind of guy, like, oh, like, before you hear about my idea, you got to sign, like, a non-disclosure agreement. Like, really, and I was. But the more you kind of put it together, you're like, this is a lot of work. Well, nobody wants to do this. This is a lot of work.
One of the things that, you know, like, we would talk about a lot in our meetings is it's like, sure, someone might take an idea, right? Okay, you take our base idea, go for it, give it a shot, right? You're gonna do that. It's gonna come out different than ours.
Yeah, it will never be
no
exactly
matter
what we have.
No matter what, you go into our meetings. Honestly, we started out like pretty crappy in our meetings. Like no one knew what to say.
Yeah.
But now we're like a well-oiled machine when we're talking about creative ideas. Everyone feels the right to say something and it bouncing ideas off each other. It's beautiful. I love it.
To add, I mean, we should go into a little bit that a bit. We have a teteam of, was it?
There's six of us.
Six of us.
Yeah,
it was our friend Darnell, our friend Owen, our friend Michael
Musili.
Yeah, we call Judas.
Yeah,
and then our friend, and we have a friend Jared, and they're all a bunch of different people with different aspects of they add to this idea. And we kind of established that we needed to have weekly meetings. We tried to do it in a very structured corporate way, but the more we started to do that, the more, and this is the biggest learning process of the whole thing, is you can't do it like a school project. You can't do it like you're this big corporate business. You literally have to do it as if like you're in a basement with your friends who are trying to make something. Like you're trying to build this thing. Like you gotta be raw, you gotta be there, you gotta be initiative, you just gotta be actually a part of this project.
Being leaders of the project, what we took away from this is culture, right? Going back to that, like culture is the most important thing. We don't pay them. You know what I mean? We don't pay anyone that I've ever worked with, which is so crazy to say. It's what's worked for me. I've never paid them. And sorry, but it's just like what it comes down to is like
we technically paid Owen.
Technically, but not really.
I mean, now he doesn't want to leave. He's like, yo, let's keep this going.
But the thing is, it's called. I think of it as like the culture, right? We create this culture of like we've got drive, we got determination. We want to make something happen, and you know, if you want to be with us, you want to be with us. I'm not forcing you to stay, and I'm not putting pressure on you to like not leave. Like you can leave at any moment. I always say that, but you know, creating this culture of that, like we're not just like a team of people that are only working on this. We're people who care about each other. You know what I mean? And that really makes people want to work for us and make people like want to continue doing that, putting in the effort that they're doing, which is nice.
We do a great job of inspiring them too. Like I told this to him in the beginning when we were finding people. I was like, we can't find people that just want to do it for the money. Like we genuinely have to find people who like the idea.
Yeah.
You know,
it's important. It's like really important.
Because the thing is, though, if you're going for the money, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to downplay. Like if you like money, that's fine. Who doesn't like money? But when you want to create an idea, you have to like the idea because you're gonna then think about it. You're gonna try to make it the best it can possibly be.
Right.
Whereas if you're thinking about the money, you're just thinking, how fast can I get it done?
Right.
Yeah.
And then that's where that impatience comes.
Which is weird because that was the only thing. Like I have been impatient with this idea, but that's a different.
But that's a
topic.
topic.
You have a different connection to it now, and that's where it kind of like the
100%
tension is between the impatience and like having an idea that you're passionate.
Right.
about.
100%. Yeah.
And I mean, to kind of go back to where like the conversation kind of diverged a little bit was basically that this idea we learned a lot from. You know, we learned a ton from, and you can't always reproducing the same thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was going to go back to. Is that, you know, because we have that culture, because we developed that, and because we have developed this type of relationship, again, no one's going to create the same product that we create. So sure, like someone can take it and run with it, but they'll just be competitors. They're not going to be us.
And to be honest with you, we do have a lot of competitors. Our competitors are still the base social medias who are billion-dollar giants, okay? And I'm not one to downplay like, you know, their work and like, you know, make our work sound amazing, but we're doing the best that we can to make sure that we're differentiating. And one of the biggest differences thing, we have this function on an app called Dares, where you can dare students to do things in a bound of like what is legal, you know what I'm saying? Like we have certain things in place where you can't be like, hey, Bob, jump off a bridge. Like, you know, we don't want that under our belt, but you can do other stuff where you could be like, hey, Michael James, go take like 3 shots of like I mean like 3 basketball shots and make them in at the basketball.
Snort a line of hot sauce.
Snort a line of hot sauce. Like, but anything like that, because we want to. That's all part of the college culture. And realistically, my biggest pet peeve that also enhanced the idea was I never felt like I was fully involved in my college experience. I was always involved with the external stuff I did outside of college, you know? Where it was just like, you know, hanging out with friends, going to bars or going to like house parties or, you know, trying to be part of clubs that I felt like did nothing, you know, to be honest with you. But with this idea, we want to then centralize every external factor is now becoming internal. What you do outside of college is now important. So even if you're home and you're posting like you're having a great time at bars, you still represent your school. You know what I'm saying? No matter where you go, we want to bring that level of like, I love where I go. Almost like how people are diehard for their state. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm just like, New York is the best or California is the best. We want to bring that same competitive like love culture that people have for their state to back to school. Like,
and I think that everyone has it to a degree.
Yeah,
everyone has it in them to like be like, oh, I like where I came from type of thing.
Oh yeah.
But I think that it's just like this kind of brings that out and kind of like even blows it up almost, like says like now this is a platform for you to express that feeling.
I mean,
that
people
you
are
have
competitive.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the thing, and that's what we're trying to sell. Is we want people to be competitive, especially with their colleges. You know what I'm saying? You say, "Oh, my college." Easily, if you talk to the right person and you say, "My college can party way better than your college," you're gonna start like some fight.
100%.
Man.
Yeah, and
that's what we want. You know?
That's good.
Let's take it to college versus.
Exactly. Let's settle it. You know, kind
one of the and you know. We like I was saying before, we have these discussions, these creative discussions together where we try to come up with ideas that, you know, differentiate ourselves. And one of the ones that I do want to talk about that's going to be coming like in the future of our app that we have in development right now is this idea of face-offs. It's you take 2 different schools and you have them compete for a certain amount of points or do certain things together, and whoever's generating more points through that process ends up winning the face-off.
Hopefully we would be able to then offer that school some prize, you know, whether it's like they bring a concert, bring a party to their school.
You guys got the vision. I love it.
Well, like
awesome. That's really cool.
We always want to there's both a catch-22 to this. We always want to keep improving on our idea to make sure that it's different and more interesting, but at the same time we don't want to improve, like keep adding so many features that we're never releasing. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Whatever feels natural.
I think the art of it, right, is just telling yourself like, what is it that we want? Right? Like,
that's
who are we? You know what I mean? And what separates us?
What are we actually creating?
You put that together, and then you're like, okay, anything else that like emphasizes this can come out later. You know what I mean? What we are needs to come out first, and they need to be able to see that. And that's the message we try to drive home. We had a meeting like the beginning of this year where I set up this whole PowerPoint presentation, and it literally started off with, who are we? You know what I mean? Like, what are we supposed to be doing? Like, what are the features that define us as an app? You know, and I think that helped us like drive our project in the direction it's going in now. But without that, you know, we were constantly just coming up with new ideas of like, oh, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool.
Which is a very big rabbit hole.
And that's actually something that I know. I don't even like think. I know a lot of people who start projects run into, because you get excited about your project. You're like,
this goes back to the like just do it kind of thing. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that's what we were talking about with the I really like we're on the same, not the same page, but the same creative space where it's like we have visions and it's like we could talk about it, but that's not like
let's
put
not
all our
just
baskets.
Like try and do
exit
like
one basket, one moment. Let's gradually week by week. Yeah, let's just keep working, and go from there. But
and you evolve over time, and you see it, you know. But you know, we keep brainstorming. You have those ideas, you write them down, and whenever they fit, they fit.
Yes,
and like what you said too, like who are we? I think that's kind of what we talked about first. Like, what is this podcast? What are we trying to accomplish here? Like, this is not just like us. Let's like fuck around. Like, what are we doing? Why are we here? Yeah,
exactly. What is our purpose?
What's our purpose? When you start doing it, that's when you really start to define who you are.
100%. Yep.
When you're in the experience, it's so much easier.
Yes. Because when you're just talking about it, you can never fully define because you don't know what's actually being created.
Exactly.
Either way.
And the thing is, we'll say this, and people who haven't gone through this experience will like be like, oh, that's such a simple concept, right? They'll be like who are we? Of course, like we know who. But it's like, no, it's not that easy. And once you're in it, you realize there's a lot of wrinkles to that. And you're like, how do we iron this out? How do we figure out like how to define ourselves? And
okay, but I will have to add something specific that I regret that we did not do in the beginning or notice in the beginning. But release dates are your worst enemy. Never, if you're releasing a product at a certain time, do not give people release date ever. Because that'll be the death.
We went through that.
Mike was like ready to tell people we were gonna do the teaser. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, your best bet is to just, when it's done, just release it.
Yeah.
That's really it. Because we've had that problem for so long. There was one time where I was so anxious, and this is part of my problem with being impatient, is we released a very unfinished version of it. We acquired 300 users, but it was such a crappy app. It was not functional. It kept crashing. It was not good. So if we would have waited and we would have released at a better time where we were much more functional, we would have had such a better product, and we would have actually probably been in a better spot, then when we are now.
And I mean, the thing is, like, everyone learns different things through the projects. You know what I mean?
We needed to learn that. Yeah.
And at the same time, it's everyone fails, you know what I mean? And failure is part of success, right? So, like, when you fall down, it's how you bounce back. So when we obviously did something like that, it's learning, like, okay, we learned something from this. That's the way we bounce back. We learned something from this. And then you say, okay, now in this new environment, how's the next best way to attack?
Yeah.
Because you created a new environment. You created an environment where the idea is known. People see it. People have an opinion of it. Yeah. So how do you change that perception? How do you put yourself out in the public sphere and now recreate the image that you want them to see, you know? So it's just, that's part of the bounce back process that we had to go through, you know?
And as a team and as brothers too, it was a big part of separating our relationship as brothers and friends away from actually business. There were times where me and him were at each other's necks, you know? Where we were like, no, I don't like that, like. And there was a lot of times where I pulled the car, well, it was my idea kind of thing. And there was times where he's like, I was the one doing like a big majority of it. It was a lot of stuff like that. But you have to realize, like, at the end of the day, like, your friendship or your relationship with your family is not the same thing as your business relationship.
Yeah, sure.
You got to keep them apart, no matter what the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, and we even operate in that way, like, all the time. There's a very clear switch mode. You know what I mean? Even in the start of our meetings, like, we like to have like a beginning part of our meetings where a lot of us are just catching up and just like bullshitting. And
being raw.
Being raw. And then like there's a mood shift where we're like, it's not being fake, but it's just being like,
down to business.
It's being like, all right, right now we're not friends. Right now we're trying
to accomplish something.
We are cogs in our own machine. You know what I mean? Working together to solve the problem. And I think that's really useful, because if anyone's ever offended in that sphere, it doesn't like bleed into their relationships with each other, and that's something that we learned through this process that everyone goes through. Everyone who starts a project goes through that experience, but it's just being aware that you don't let that stop you. You just adapt to that new environment,
Yeah, but unfortunately, I cannot give anyone a release date for College Viruses does not exactly have a release date. It will be released, just doesn't have a release date.
I was gonna say, where are you guys? What stage are you guys at right now?
Is it? That's a colorful question.
It is a colorful question. I can run with this one.
I
can run with this one. Yeah. So a lot of my responsibilities have switched from programming heavily to managing the project. Me and Brett have a way of communicating where, I think that I have a better way of formulating like the steps forward. And so it's easier for me to take up that role, so I moved into that a little bit heavier. And so in our mind, I guess like in the group's mind right now, we are trying to just get out all of the features that we discussed back in January and finish those out. Right now,
not add anything else.
Yeah, not add anything else that we wanted that is in the backlog that we're going to add at some point down the line.
We have a lot of stuff.
For sure.
But for the time being, what we want to do is just get the stuff that makes us done.
Yep.
And we're, I would say, 90% done with that. We have like one other feature we're working through to make sure that that's finished.
Which one of the features might not be on the official release, but will be added later on.
Yeah. But we have the stuff like kind of working.
Yeah, we have all the backbone of it.
So that right there, I'd say like 90% done with the raw coding of the app. The next phase is testing. So we want to make sure we have a good, solid testing procedure that we didn't do well enough the first time that we released, and that was really just out of like anxiety, excitement, just getting it out there. Patience. But we want to make sure that we test it properly and address all the edge cases.
We literally want to make a chair, and then we're going to give it to the people that we trust the most, and we're going to ask them, do whatever you can to break this thing.
Yeah.
We want you to just...
So because of that, you know, we do have that literally like last phase, which is just the testing, but that we want to make sure we do thoroughly. We have a plan. I've discussed with all the people that are responsible for their coding their coding part of the project, and I said, all right, come up with a testing plan for your part of the project, and let's discuss that together. And there's like an idea in programming where you do like these things called unit tests, which I won't get into it, but really you just like run a code and then it just tests everything that's there. And that's something that's really good to develop at the beginning of the project. We didn't do that right in the beginning, which is fine, but it means that we do this next step, which is making sure we thoroughly check everything that we want to check. And once that's done, then I would say that we're at that stage to release, but we don't want to give that release date. We don't want to tell people when that's ready.
We made that mistake before, even like at the beginning of the year, we're like, oh, we're going to be done by August, like 29th, and things have not transpired. However, one of the biggest motivations for us was just the amount of work that was being put in. We still see a lot of motivation from everybody. I mean, and not to like really, you know, put a lot of like myself on a pedestal here, but a lot of my front end. So I think we should break down, like I work specifically only on the front end development, which is the visual look of it. I focus on like how the people are going to see it, how it functions and how it flows. I guess when you click through your app, how
You're talking about the interface?
Yeah, the interface, the whole interface thing. That's my job to create that, to program that. Whereas Ryan's job and someone else's job is to make sure that it's connecting on the back end. So if I sign into your account as like Simone, it makes sure that it's grabbing your information and you're playing our app through your user. Okay, so he's still doing a lot of implementation for that. I'm practically done, almost. I'd say like 93% done on the front end.
It's accuracy.
It's always it's
93.2%.
it's as loosely as it can be, because there's all the worst part about being any type of artist, and that's what I consider myself because I'm creating the visual look. Is you're always going to look at small things like, oh, that needs to be critiqued, you know, which is good because I'm making sure that it's perfect. But at the same time,
but that's why we have the roles of the project, right? Because it's like, for example, like. Because he's put a lot of the responsibility on the front end, I've taken that role of like I'm the review guy. Basically, like I know enough about all the aspects of the project that I can be like, I know what's good, I know what's not good. You run it by me, I know you're gonna be hypercritical. We had another guy who was doing front end before who switched over to some more of the marketing and like law stuff. Or legal stuff, but he would do the same thing. Constantly would like stay up like
very anal,
super late at night, just being like,
you get trapped.
Yeah, but like being like really anal about the smallest things, and like he'd show it to me, and I'm like, no one is going to care about that. I mean, I care.
I get what you're saying.
I care about detail. I super care about detail. So important. But there's some things that when you hyper fixate on, you're making decisions without data, right? Like you're saying, I want it to look this way. But you have no idea if people are going to like it that way.
Well, the thing is, you look at any artist, like they look at their idea like, oh, this is crap, and then like it's a fantastic, everyone else, and nobody notices that.
Yeah. You know? So it's in that way, he does a lot of the front end. Me and like two other guys work a lot of the back end, but I've kind of pulled myself a little bit further away from the programming aspect to kind of monitor all of this
to mitigate everything.
Yeah, mitigate any problems that we were like, I guess, too zoned in on.
Because once again, I was saying, like, we had a release date for August, even November, and the thing is, though, our deadline was like, we're going to be done, and then we're going to be like done with this project. Like, we're not going to really put a lot of stress on it anymore. And the thing is, though, we then had a meeting like, listen, man, like, a lot of work is getting done, like more work than we've ever really done before. Like, we're making, but I would say before. And this is no disrespect to anybody that we work with, but our progress was very all over the place. We were moving in such a very sporadic line.
Things start off.
And now I feel like, and it's strange to see because we've been working on this for almost I'd say 5 years, and but the fact in the past year and a half or 2 years, we've really hit like a central line of like, all right, we know what we need to do. We know how we have to do it. We know what needs to be nailed down. And because we see all this inspiration and all this excitement that has been almost revived in a way where we finally understand how to do it, that's where we're kind of like, no more deadlines, just like, we're going to get it done. Kind of thing, you know?
But the big problem with that, and that's any like project that people start, is that you don't make this your life, right? Because I mean, at first, because you're like, oh, like it's risky. I've got other stuff going on. Like I had plans. This just came out of nowhere. Like how much do I really invest in this? And it's hard to convince people who like have full-time jobs to be like, hey man, I'm not paying you, but like, you know what?
We could do
Sick idea,
something
man.
there,
Sick
and
idea, man. So it's very hard to kind of convince from that angle. But as the gears start turning, as the train keeps rolling on,
it's that consistent. It's like the
consistency thing. Going back to the consistency
it's
thing.
that middle thing. You
Yeah,
know?
and you realize like if you're consistently working together, you're consistently meeting, you're consistently operating as this machine, you eventually can get to the place that you want to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand that it took a long time for us to learn a lot of these lessons. But we never said we were perfect. You know what I mean? We never said that. We never even said that we were good at what we do. Like we became good at what we do over time, and that's where I think maybe people could take something away from this, where it's like you don't have to be amazing to do something amazing. You know what I mean?
Right. I heard I would listen to a podcast, and I don't know who said it, but striving for mediocrity, just like what we were talking about before. It's like not going into the gym and expecting that you're going to be what you were in high school or, just being able to power lift whatever crazy amount of weights, but just striving for that gray area and being okay with that and being consistent. At least if you get something done towards your goal each day, regardless what it is, you've done something.
Yes.
And that is consistency. Consistency isn't necessarily like, all right, I'm going to go 2 hours at the gym every single day, because that's OD. Like, why are you putting that on yourself? You don't have to do that. Like, you can do 30 minutes today, you can go tomorrow and do an hour, you can go the next day and be like, I'm going to do 2 sets and I don't want to be here anymore, but keep going.
I think people forget how important even the small stuff are. I mean, I remember I read this article about, it helping like keep depression at bay. And it was like, just move, just clean your room or
take a shower.
Take a shower,
If you're feeling depressed, just get up and go exercise or just talk to a friend.
My viewpoint is this: when you're ever depressed or in a bad state of mind, I look at it as like you're in a dark forest, and the only thing you could do is just keep walking, and eventually you'll see some type of light. You know what I'm saying? Like you just gotta move.
Yeah. And I think going off of kind of what you were saying about like the gym and stuff like that, or other like consistency things, is that. I think maybe, and this just came into my head now, is setting a minimum, right? Like setting like a really, really easy minimum. Like if you were going to the gym, say I'm gonna go to the gym for 15 minutes. I'm gonna do one set. I'm gonna do like, let's say I'm gonna go to do 10 reps of curls, like 3 sets. And 3 sets, whatever. And then you're done, right? And you could just leave the gym. That could be your minimum, right? Maybe the next day or like a week later, you're like my minimum is still 15 minutes, but I'm feeling really good. I'm just gonna do like 3 workouts today.
But it's important that you always are pushing yourself.
Yeah, it's always important. You can move that minimum as you become like more comfortable with it. 100%. But I think that you start with a minimum, and it's okay if like let's say you had 3 days straight where you were doing like 3 workouts a day, and then you just have one day where you're like, I'm only gonna do the minimum today. You know what I mean? And you still did something. You can't. Don't be mad at yourself just because you had a day that to take a little bit of a break and or like not meet like your best performance. Like that's okay. Like
it's important.
Yeah,
that's definitely important.
I think a lot of people use also exercising as a huge metric of like motivation or hard work, and I love that. Don't get me wrong, especially as someone who does that too. But it transpires into like everything. We
do have like a heavy gym culture.
Yeah, there is.
It's not
huge.
Like that
and
Europe and places.
Well, actually,
but it's every. That's it's huge in our country.
Yeah.
It's huge in our country, and I talk to anybody who like tries to be extremely motivational, and no downplay to them. I think it's always good to try to motivate people, but like exercise is not the only answer, kind of thing. It's not the only like thing to solve.
You can be healthy without having.
Like I remember I saw
to be able to move your neck.
I saw this meme. It's just like, yo, if I get ripped and like jacked, I'll feel better. And then it's like a picture of him ripped and jacked. He's like, I don't feel better. And it's like, because I only say that because I hear it so often. Like, all right, like to start getting with like your life moving, like start working out more, start doing this. I'm like, all right, well, maybe start with something else. Like maybe if you like reading, like maybe start reading that book. Exactly. And I think that should be talked about enough, because my biggest problem throughout my whole life was I always put, if you're in good shape, that's all that matters. And, there's more to life than trying to stay in shape or, trying to be healthy. Like, you got to just have this level of balance of, like, there's more stuff that you should want to do.
Yeah, and I think that to some degree, like, we kind of, like, glorify, like supreme athletes, And I mean,
especially United States.
Give credit where it's due. Like, supreme athletes,
amazing.
awesome.
They're amazing.
You do your thing, man. But when it comes to like like your average person who's not really that interested in sports or not really interested in athletics or working out. You don't have to force yourself to be in shape. You know what I mean? You just got to be healthy. You got to be healthy and then do the things that you love. Like, I'm not gonna say don't work out. Like, work out. It's good for you. Do that. You know what I mean? But
well, my overall thing was just saying, like, to also be a very, like, inspiring, motivated person, like, you could do other things besides working out.
No, I agree. No, I 100% agree with you. I think that it's more like working out isn't the answer to happiness. Doing the things that make you happy is the key to happiness.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. I just think that working out is just a very easy metric because people could put numbers to it.
Yeah, and then also they get, like, obviously some vain satisfaction. You know what I mean? Like,
visual things.
It's like
there's visual.
Yeah, which is like a huge thing. I mean, visual things for the human race is a big thing. But I mean, we got a little too off topic with our app though. I just the one big thing I did want to say though, whether this app flops or not, or
it's not
doesn't go. I mean,
you can't say that.
I'm not one to be like too specific. I believe it will work. I have this like dying love for it. And I really
believe in it. Yeah, believe in it. Yeah.
But even if it doesn't work out, the biggest thing, most important thing is that we learned as a team and as my brother, I know that we could create whatever we want and we could just keep going at it.
Yeah.
I don't look at life as a 6-shot like gun. I look at life as like you got infinite ammo, just keep firing, you'll eventually hit the target.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I see it.
Heavy, right? Heavy. Yeah.
You can't unless you're dead, then you got ammo, But that's the most important thing I'd like to add to that. So.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and I think that's like the biggest thing is that whatever anyone starts or anything like that, like don't be afraid if it doesn't work. Like if it doesn't work, you learned something, and don't say like, oh my God, that was a waste of time. It wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
Like you learned how you operate under that framework, and you can say now, if you did it again, you'd do it better.
Agreed.
And then if you fail that time, if you did it again, you do it even better.
I agree.
That,
and even the podcast, we're like, obviously it is going to be what it is, whatever we do, however it finishes. But like, this is memories. This is words. We're talking to people. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it can be the greatest, or it can be the worst. It doesn't matter. Like overall, throughout this whole time period, we've had great conversations. Or we're together.
Right.
And so it's like,
and even like as an opportunity, like we were saying before, we haven't been able to see each other a lot, and this provides a platform for us to even like see each other and talk. You know what I mean?
And now people that don't know you can hear what your guys are like.
Of course.
It's just so much. Yeah.
I mean, and this goes back to that whole cliche thing: is everyone's too embarrassed, or it feels like they're going to get in an uncomfortable situation trying to make these daring decisions in their lives. Like, I don't want to do this because I'm worried about this. Like, I don't want to release this podcast because I'm worried about people's opinion. I don't want to release this app because I'm afraid people aren't going to like it. Like, I don't want to say I've come to this point. I just know I don't care in the sense. I don't care in the sense like, oh, like fuck you, like screw you kind of thing. I'm saying I don't care in the sense because I'm just happy that I did it.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
This is the thing that I'm happy. I'm not
doing
trying
it
to
for you. I'm doing it for me.
But I'm not even trying to say like I'm not doing it for you in like a mean way. I'm just saying like I'm literally just doing this because I need to do this for me.
I agree.
I need to do this for me.
Yeah.
I love a lot of people. I love mostly everybody.
Sure.
And I'm just saying like this is for me. Like I need to know that I can accomplish this.
Right. And I mean that's something that we're only here for like maximum like 100-something years, right? So it's like whatever we have our time.
I don't want to die.
But I mean, like whatever we have time to do, you know what I mean? Like that's our experience with life. You know what I mean? And it's such like a precious small window that you get, and it's a gift. And so you take that. You
think about that a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that
and it should feel good. Yeah.
Like it should.
And you shouldn't let like other people's like negative comments take away from the stuff. Yeah, from what you want to do.
We've said this last 2 episodes. We're like, if someone comments on the podcast and says you guys suck, like we're not gonna stop.
Yeah, let's keep going.
That's fine. Yeah, I'll see it. That's fine. But like at the same time,
thanks for your opinion. I'm still rocking with it.
Exactly.
And even if then, sometimes like criticism like that is important. It helps you improve.
100%. That's fine. Like if you think that, that's fine. Like, I'm happy someone feels that way and they're saying it. That's cool.
The best part is they watched it.
Exactly.
Win-win kind of thing. You watch it, you listen to it. Like, I mean, okay.
Thank you for letting me know.
And then if they provide feedback, or if they don't provide like great feedback, they're just like, oh, it sucks. It's like you could think to yourself, it's like, all right, well, maybe there's some truth to it. But I don't. It's not like I'm not gonna stop it. Now let me look at it. Like what could it be that they didn't like? You know? And then you break it down, and then you just do that problem solving offline, and you're like, all right, be better next time.
I mean, a lot of people said in the beginning, like, oh, your app is a lot like Facebook or Instagram, and I would get mad because I'm just like, it kind of not is, but at the same time, they're not wrong. It is like that. But then it made me realize, like, all right, well, all that means is we just got to be a little different. I'm not going to stop just because it's the same idea. What people don't tell you too is like, pretty much every idea has been done essentially. Just like you got, no matter who does it, as long as you do it your own way. Like even Facebook was MySpace.
Always going to reference what they already know.
For sure.
Like because they want to feel like they contribute.
But back to
exactly.
They want to be they're like I was part of it. I said something.
But back to what he was saying though, is he was saying that no matter what, if you create it, it's still your own. It's still you.
I like to say there isn't really any such thing as original thought. There's original people. And I think that like when, people are making things, like it's just their connections of all thoughts that already exist. You know what I mean? So it's like none of those thoughts are really that original, but it's just like the combination that you put together, that's original. And I think that's what we're trying to play off of with our app is I'll give you all the same stuff. You're gonna come up with something different. And So
it's funny because I watched a video about art and how it says all art is based off of other people's creation. Like you look at an inspiration. Quentin Tarantino was a big example. Like the movie Kill Bill takes a lot of representation from samurai Japanese movies that were in the 50s. There's she wears an outfit by Bruce Lee. Like it's all you're doing when you create an original idea is you're taking other things you see and bringing inspiration into it. That's all.
Actually, the fun part about Quentin Tarantino, did you know that he actually worked at like a movie store?
He told me.
And what
he has no
traditional
traditional experience. I've seen the video. I've seen a lot of videos on him. Not that I'm saying I don't look up. This is another. Well, yeah. This is another thing. I don't look. I used to put I wouldn't say I used to put. I don't like putting people, even celebrities, on pedestals. I don't. I mean, me and Ryan.
I say the same thing a lot.
Me and Ryan talk about this all the time. Like we don't. There's no difference between you and them. I don't care. I really don't. Like money, wealth, physical ability. There's nothing different. You can do whatever they can do. I mean, maybe you can't do it to the exact level, but you'll be doing it your own way, and that's all.
And applaud them for what they do. I mean,
for example, all respect.
I mean, I'm not gonna be Usain Bolt. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna. I've ran out of time, but also like at the end of the day, like I'm not gonna do what he does, but I'm not gonna put him on a pedestal and say, oh my God, Usain Bolt is the greatest thing to ever come into this world. Or like same with anybody, really.
Yeah.
They all have their flaws.
Definitely. I noticed a lot of people sit there and say like, oh, I wish I could be as great as
Yeah.
Or this. I'm like, why can't you?
Yeah.
Why can't you?
Well, my biggest red flag when like dating someone is always like, what? My biggest red flag with dating someone or even like creating a friendship with someone is like, oh my God, like I'd sleep with X celebrity because they're so this. I'm like, you don't know them. Just because of that. And also when I hear people are like, even they're in a relationship, like, oh, I would cheat on my ex person with this celebrity. I'm like, okay, so just because they're famous or do this, that also puts them in a pedestal that is out of, I hate that. Yeah, and
I know, big time.
To be honest,
it is bad. It is bad. We do that a lot in our
It's
culture.
disrespectful. It's
No, I
disrespectful.
know, yeah.
Like some people will look at it as like, oh, you're being very respectful. Like they did all this comment. No, it's disrespectful because you don't know them.
They're genuine.
Exactly, you
creators.
don't know
They're
them.
people. They're people too, just like us. You know.
Understanding of like what creators actually are and like media's interpretation. Of
Right.
creators.
Oh, yeah,
I also
for
think
sure.
it's like it's a social intelligence thing. You know what I mean? Like it's really just coming down to it's like, oh, I'm so disconnected to that person, therefore they're barely a person. You know what I mean? They're in their brain. If you're very socially connected, it's like, okay, fine. Like I don't know that person, but they are still a person.
Yeah,
I have
for
experience with people. I know that they have other dimensions to than what I see. You know what I mean? So
for sure.
you don't look at them as, oh, you are only a movie star. I'm you're somebody who has emotions, and I have to accept you as that.
That's the biggest point.
People too looking at celebrities and thinking of all of the things that they don't have that they do.
That's really what they like. That's the thing, you know. They just like the stuff that they don't have, you know.
Yeah.
Like if you like someone for their acting abilities, they're a phenomenal actor. Okay, do you like them for who they are as a person? No, because you don't know them.
I will say that I could see it from this angle where if somebody does something impressive, you could be like, oh, I want to meet that person.
Yeah, respect is
understand, like,
respect is different
Like,
than obsession.
Yeah, it's like, well, I want to have a conversation with them because I want to know like what they did. You know what I mean? Like I have that experience myself with a lot of different people. I'm like, wow, I kind of want to pick that person's brain a bit, but no, in no way, like we're saying, do I say like, oh my God, this guy's the pinnacle of what I want to become, you know, or this girl's the pinnacle of what I want to become. It just is almost like brainless to think that, you know.
Yeah,
People definitely engage in like these parasocial relationships with famous people.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I think
they give so much time, effort, and energy into these people.
Yeah.
And these people have no idea who.
I know, yeah.
Ridiculous.
I actually came to that opinion on things actually at a young age because a lot of people would put him on a pedestal, a lot, and they still do, and I mean. Ironically enough, I never had that problem where I was like jealous of my brother. I was never jealous of him. We lived completely different aspects of lives, and I guess I would say I made it apparent that we weren't the same, you know. But the thing is, a lot of people would put him on stuff like he's super smart, he can do this, he's super fast, he's got all these capabilities, and then they'd be like, hey Brett, like why can't you do that? Why can't you do this?
Compare. Why do people need to compare?
Yeah.
But the thing
We're
is,
not even the same. You know what I mean?
That's the thing I was trying to say. Like I don't want to be him. I am me. You know, kind of thing. And when people are putting him on a pedestal, giving him all the time, like you don't even know Ryan. I go home, this man does some weird, stupid shit. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing to me. I do some weird, stupid shit. So you don't know us. You can't make. And don't get me wrong. People will always make accusations and assumptions, and that's fine and it's normal. Yeah. But like when I start seeing people put them in such a high like hierarchy of like in their mind, I don't like that because you're then first off you're affecting yourself. Yeah. You're putting yourself low.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
I 100% agree.
And I think it's like when it came to that, one of the things that we benefited from is that neither of us like put each other down.
No.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like. Like for example, when people were like blowing me up, like kind of like the thing, I never took that as like I'm now gonna use this to like put Brett down. I'm like you could do that all you want. You could say I'm great, but I'm only like great in like your definition of great.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm like I know Brett, and Brett's better than me at X, Y, and Z, and I'm like you'll never know that. But in my head, I'm like I know it, and I know that like he's my number one like competitor in life. You know,
so it's funny because we're as a family, we're all very competitive. So the fact that we were able to also mitigate a level of like relationship where we know that we still love and care for each other and bring each other up is huge. I mean, the culture, in specifically even Vietnamese culture, is like they're very big on like family is first. And I've become to realize that even more so as I've gotten older. Like my aunts and uncles, they have all their horrible flaws and also good things about them, but they are always going to put family first, no matter what. Like it's crazy. Like I could be homeless and I could just call up one of them and they will be like, I have you home. I got you home. And nobody, and I can tell you right now, like nobody has, I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people have that level of support system we were talking about.
But I think that, you know, and I know this jumps back to the beginning of this conversation, but I think that what that comes back to is like we learned how to love through them. You know what I mean? And that's where I think that we took that and brought it into our friendships and our connections, and other people learn it in different ways. And I mean, I know everyone that we're at least friends with understands that, and that's how they love other people. But I think that's the way we learned it, and I think that like we find it just as important to incorporate the people that make us happy or bring like positivity into our lives. We want to show them that we care. Like that means a lot, and we're gonna give you that unconditional love. Obviously, if you do something that like breaks that, like that hurts us. Like we know we don't want to say goodbye to you. We never want to say goodbye to people in our life. It hurts us a lot, and if we do that, that's just like, you know, like it's damaging.
We're very loving friends. I mean, I treat everyone I've met that I want to keep my life with a level of kindness. I mean, the first time I met you,
I can stamp that because both time I met you guys both, it was just a complete genuine. I was just telling Alyssa about it. I was like, yo, I've known you guys probably for like 2-3 years, but I feel like I've known you my whole life.
Yeah.
Like every time I'm with you, it's just like,
And I remember I met you for the first time. Like I felt like a genuine, just a good vibe from you. And I use vibe a lot, even though I haven't used it in last conversation. Yeah, but I was like, he's a good guy, and I remember I gave you that cupcake for your birthday. I'm like, you know what? I want to just give a good day to this guy. You know?
So I met you like once. You were together, and you gave me a cupcake.
And when I met Simone too, like I just knew, I was like, yo, she's a good person to be around. And when we see that, we really are like, and I think it's because of our family culture of like holding on to like the importance of family. We integrate our friends into that, like hold on to these people, you know, because you don't want, there's so few of them. You know?
I 100% so few. That's why it's crazy. It really is.
And like I said, I love the fact that we're able to even be on this podcast. Love that we could catch up. I love that we can have conversations.
Right.
I love it.
I'm glad you carried this whole shit through.
You guys killed this.
It's been a long time since we talked to you guys.
It's been a very long time. You know? I mean, and there's a lot of stuff that we had to catch you guys up on. I mean, there's been, especially in my life. I mean, I went through a crap ton of different depressive episodes in the span of like 2 years.
Right. Yeah. I mean, your arc is very interesting.
We touched upon it briefly in the beginning, but like it was rough for me when I was working in Buffalo in like marketing. I just didn't care for it, you know. And you feel trapped. And this goes back to when I was saying like I felt like I needed to impress my family, impress my mom. Like I put myself in this box because I didn't think I was capable of doing anything else. I felt like that I had to do it this way only, and then I felt trapped because I literally trapped.
Well, that's where like it's really interesting because like almost in like when you were saying like we live like parallel lives, it's like our arcs are so drastically different. So drastically different. It's like you always take this arc where it's like you start with like absolutely nothing, and then you go and like you build this like beautiful tree, right? And it's just like, whoa, you know,
I'm a gambler. I told you.
and then it's like a well structured tree that like you can trace it all the way back to like, okay, this is how I got here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like with me, it's like it usually comes up where like I have like this weird branch coming out, and then I like build something that like isn't a tree. It's like maybe like a flower or like a bush on the side, you know? And it's just like when you look at those two different images, you're just like, whoa, like how did these people like even develop this picture?
I always like to say like Ryan, he likes to capitalize on his strengths to the point where he's not even just, the whole thing is like, oh, like hard work beats talent, but if talent works hard, like it beats everything. Like Ryan's the definition of like talent that works hard. Like Ryan doesn't let his talents go to waste. Like he knows he's capable of these things. He knows he has these abilities, and he's not going to be like, I'm not going to do anything with them. Like he takes advantage of all of them in the best way possible. I mean, that's why he's in the position. He got his PhD. He's getting his PhD for free. Let's put that out there. In aerospace engineering, okay? He's now going to Clemson, too. He moved from Buffalo to now to Clemson, okay? And that's to him, that's an accomplishment. Okay, whatever. To anyone else in this room, we're like, holy crap, man, that is unbelievable. But the thing is, to him, is like he just knows like I just used what I knew was best, and I made sure that I used it to the absolute fullest. And I take a lot from that as well, but I do it in my own way, like I said, where I know when I need to capitalize on the opportunities I have. I'm not going to say that I'm not a talented person. I think everyone is very talented, but I know where my certain strengths are, and I know how to use them in my own way. And I think that's where we just differentiate ourselves. We have different strengths that we just use in our own way. You know?
Yeah, true. It's very true.
I mean, look at the way we make friends and relationships with people is vastly different.
It's weird though. You know what's weird about that is it to us it's drastically different, but I really wonder from the other side. If it's like
we have other people saying like, oh, you're so similar to your brother, you know.
But then at the same time, I'm nothing like Brett. Like, what are you talking about?
I'm nothing like him.
From the outside looking in, you guys are similar, but I can tell internally you guys are different.
100%.
Yeah. How different they are.
Exactly.
But your support system, just between yourself, is amazing, to be completely honest. Like, you guys, this whole conversation, you guys have been hyping each other up, and you can tell it's genuine. I love it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been doing that our whole life.
The thing is that I would say in the past, like 3-4 years, we've been trying to bring that level of, like, I guess, encouragement to our friend groups. Because I just started writing scripts with my friend Darnell and Peter.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, they would always say these things. We'd be very creative people. And I'm like, they need to be harnessed, you know? And I felt like, in no disrespect to their families, they have great families, but I feel like their support system as families weren't encouraging enough in the direction of being creative. They're always like, go to school or get a job, do this, that. And that's fine. I'm not saying that's not good. But I want to bring out the best part of people.
Yeah. I also think it's important.
I tell Simone all the time.
I believe everybody is creative. I just need neuroscience to sit there and confirm that shit.
No, I agree. But there's so many different ways to say it, because we were talking about it, I think, last week or something. It's just like so many people you can pull it out of them, but there's different ways to pull it out of them.
Right.
Like, you can tell him this one thing, you tell her, and it can be like that might not work for her, it might work for him, it might not,
Yeah, there's an art to it. There's really an art to it, and you really have to, that social intelligence. It's really just coming back to like understanding people and being more than just like book smart, being street smart and understanding that emotions are not logical, you know?
For sure.
But, to go off of like the whole like, hyping each other up or like complimenting each other, I think that like people sometimes like struggle with complimenting genuinely.
I completely agree.
And I think that like when the best compliments are compliments about like what somebody like is, not what somebody looks like, or not what somebody like, I guess like the very vain stuff, you know what I mean about it? It's like really just like I love your dedication.
Yeah.
It's raw, it's real. I love it.
I use this example all the time. I was telling this to my girlfriend. I said that because I compliment a lot of people on the things that they wear or the things that they buy, because that is a lot of, believe it or not, it's a huge thing of character. Like I realized at a certain point, like people find compliments uncomfortable. Like if I tell a girl like, oh my god, like your face is so beautiful, they're like, oh, okay, why are you looking at my face so much, kind of thing. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with if they take it in that context. That's fine. I can understand that. Yeah. Like even when I get a compliment like physically, I'm just like, oh, okay, like, or why are you looking like that? But when you compliment someone like, hey, like those are really nice pairs of shoes, like oh wow, like he likes my style. He likes the way like I
make decisions.
Yeah, he likes the way I make
decisions.
It's interesting. It's even something small like that I started to pick up on, and that's why what he was saying before, like it's like you got to be in that level of thinking,
Yeah, and then like when you compliment somebody in a genuine way, you bring out a lot of the best in them.
Yes.
You bring out a lot of the best in them. And then they know that you support them. You're like, all right, I'm here with it. And I actually think that there's a confidence level to like giving compliments and accepting compliments. Like me giving somebody a compliment, I also have to, be a little. I have to remove my ego a little bit. If I say like, Michael James, like you are like an extremely dedicated person, it's like in my head, if I was like, oh, I'm not gonna say he's dedicated because then like that means like I'm not as dedicated as he is. You know, like I could see like somebody having that internal battle. But in reality, I'm like, I'm hyping you up because I like what I see about you, and I'm already like secure in what I do. But that's the confidence aspect. And if you say it confidently and you feel that, if you mean it, then it really drives that person's like motivation or their heart to be the best that they could be.
I mean, my friends, I'd say the biggest thing they struggle with is taking initiative, and I'm always about that whole thing that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. But I will say this though, my mom was telling me about something that she read, that not enough children growing up get encouragement from their parents, and because they don't get encouragement, and the thing is, it's true, because when you get that level of encouragement, you get that notification that you're actually doing something that is good, or it makes you feel good, or makes other people feel good. Then you start to want to do more of it. So what I've been doing with my friends is like, I don't put pressure on them. Like when we started writing our script, like for a movie that me and my friend are making, I didn't say like we have to work X amount of days. We have to work. I'm just like, hey, you have an idea? Like, what's up? You know? Or like if we're talking. I'm like, oh, let's write it down. You know? And then when he's writing stuff, like I wouldn't, if it's bad, I'll tell him like, all right, let's try a different angle. You know? I wouldn't downplay his work.
No. That's
all I
it.
say is like when he writes something good though, I really tell him. I'm like, dude, this is amazing. This is awesome. You know? So I think that's the thing that I'm glad that I finally nailed down on, is like, I'm not trying to like make you do something. I just want you to feel good about what you're doing.
That's the art of criticism.
Constructive criticism is so important.
Well, constructive criticism, you can be good at it or you can be bad at it. Being bad at it is adding a negative tone to it. If you give good constructive criticism, it's like doing like something to say like, I see where you're coming from. Like see them, see them, and then say like, okay, here's like something that maybe you want to like think about. And then they're more receptive to it because they're like, they see me. They see what I'm doing.
They care.
They care.
That's the thing. They care.
It's funny because right now, because I'm trying to put together this band, and like we all have to like get our schedules together and everything, and so I have to like try and like be a leader at these things, but like. My tone is just like, sometimes it just isn't, there's poor delivery. So I'm trying to figure out like, what are the ways that I can be like, all right, we need to do this, and like try to change different, like whatever. But like it's just been different, like a challenge for me to like switch my words.
And that's good. I mean, that's good that you're like even paying attention to that, right?
Because I don't like to come off, even though I come off like aggressive and like mean or like do something else, but like I'm like, look, I know that you have a lot of potential, and I have a lot of my expectations for people. I'm like, yo, just be the best that you can be in the situation, and that's always what it's going to be. But I know that I come off like all right, well, you're not doing it this way, so you need to do it this way. And, I think I have the directions for other people and everything, and I don't. But because everything speaks to other people, different things speak to people, and activate them and everything. But like, man, just getting focused on that and like trying to deliver constructive criticism to people.
Well, I think you're learning how to switch from being a boss to being a leader. You know what I mean? Like I think that like
it's so different. It's
it
so
is.
important.
That's so different.
Being able to point a finger and tell people what to do rather than like, all right, how are we gonna make this work? Like,
I feel like I always said a good leader will do this thing, like do it with their people. Like you can see me doing it, but we'll all do it together.
Actually, Michael Jordan, he's obviously an interesting person. But his one of his quotes is like that he said actually in his most recent documentary was, he was like, you can ask any of my teammates, I never asked them to do something that I wouldn't do. I wouldn't do. And I think that's really strong. And I mean, that's how we navigated our project. Like everyone knows that like any part of the project, like I'm not asking them something that I wouldn't do myself or Brett wouldn't do himself. Like it's like, if I'm asking you to do it, it's just that like right now we're distributing jobs.
I would
right?
say like my biggest thing is I try to make sure everyone feels comfortable. I'll say that's something that you're really good at. Like every single time that I've ever like spent time with you or like have been with you, I just feel comfortable. Like I'm just like, all right, he's not gonna judge me. Like he's got a great. Like, he's just here to make sure like everyone's having a good time. He's having a good time. Like he's just very relaxed and chilled in that aspect. And that's something that if you ever have an opportunity, just capitalize on. And I think you already do. I'm just saying like.
I mean, this is actually a way to capitalize. This is the way.
This is the way I capitalize it. And I mean, and the same thing goes for you, Simone. I mean, you're very genuine. I think that's something that when you're talking to the people that you want to get in your band, like just just do what you do. Just be genuine to them. Like tell them their strengths, tell them the things that you like about them. Because I'll tell you this, like when you hype people up and like say how good they are, like my friend Peter, I've never seen him more inspired when you said like, wow, Peter, you're really good at guitar. Like that man literally told me, yo, Simone told me like I was good at guitar. For like, a whole freaking 2 weeks. And I'm just like, because you're genuine. You're not saying the way
holds
you
a
say
lot of weight.
things.
The way you say things holds a lot of weight.
It doesn't come off as like, oh, they're just saying it to say it. Like, you actually sound like you mean it because you do mean it. You know, and these are strengths that like they're important to tell you guys. You know, because sometimes like I also want to be that person. Like, yeah, I see this. That's why you guys are awesome.
But I think that like understanding your strengths helps you then to go back to that boss leader thing. To be the leader. You know, to be the leader is to understand your own strengths and weaknesses. And you know, when you do that, like. You know, to kind of play on that same concept, like we were saying, I wouldn't do something that I wouldn't tell you to do something I wouldn't do. It's also like your job as a leader isn't to like sit in a chair and say build a car. Right. Your job is to say like, okay, like what part of building this car do you need in order for it to be efficient? Like if the best way for you guys to build a car or us to build a car is for me to just give you guys oil, I'll give you guys oil. You know what I mean? But if like what you need me to do is you need me as your leader to like put in the wheels, I'll put in the wheels. Like it's really what comes down to like your job is to figure out how to make this system efficient.
How do you contribute to the system? What is your role in the car?
And it's just efficiency. Your job is to figure out efficiency. You know, and that's key. Then
it looks different across.
I think your guys like to compliment you guys both. Your confidence is like A1. Like I feel like from day one, from when I met you guys both, you guys always had that confidence to your like aura.
We appreciate it.
Like your aura has always been like you've never like. I feel like from my point of view, you guys never doubted yourself. Like you know, just internally, maybe even internally, 'cause I don't know, but you guys just always had that like aura to you. That
like, means
I
means
know
a lot.
who I
It's
am.
nice.
Like, I know me.
I say this to I've told this to Ryan and Darnell before, which is one of my best friends from home. I say like the only thing that I really get anxiety in is like competition, you know. And it's because I think that growing up I had a lot of competition going on in my life. And when I mean competition, it could either be like a sports game, a video game, like just anything involving like you have to do better than the other person, and it's like a match or something. But when it came to anything else, I did not have anxiety. Whether if it was public speaking, if it was like making friends, if it was going up to like a random person and just sparking conversation, I didn't have any anxiety because there wasn't a competition to anything. And I know some people look at it as like, oh, it's a competition between you and them. No, I don't look at that. I think it's more of like I'm trying to absorb people into this happy like energy or circle that I have, and I want to bring part of it. It's like if I had like a giant blanket, I want us to go over the blanket, like, yo, look at all these stars. You know what I'm saying? I got stars on my blanket.
Well, I think you know, to bounce off of kind of what Michael James said, I think the reason why at least I know I feel confident is that as much as we talk about that we love our friends, we like they mean a lot to us and everything like that. I think the thing is that I know no matter what, like at least with like Brett will always accept me. You know what I mean? Not to get too like lovey-dovey, but it's like the thing is like it's like I don't need
like killing people.
Yeah, well, I don't need validation from anyone else except for like because of the fact I've already got it from him. You know, and same vice versa. So it's like that gave me the base of confidence, and everything else outside of that's like. Not to say it doesn't matter, but it's like that's not what's contributing to my confidence. It's just that that's a platform for me to feel confident.
No,
you know,
agree. I definitely agree.
And I've been using that to my advantage, like knowing like I feel more comfortable when I don't look at it as like a competition. So like now I do jujitsu now, and I just actually won a competition yesterday.
Applause.
And the biggest thing I had to do, it's actually cool medal. But the biggest thing I did was I was like, I got it. This is not a competition. This is just like, you know, I'm just trying to absorb them into what I'm doing, you know? And it's taken me years to do that. Like, Ryan knows when we ran track together or played soccer together, my nerves would be through the roof through a game or, you know, doing something where I had to, like, make sure that I was capable of doing it, you know? Because I always felt like I had this ability to do these things, but I never showed it up, you know? I always, like, fell short because I got too nervous or I felt like I didn't want to let people down. And this comes into recently what's been happening in my life.
I was gonna say that's the biggest part of your arc. That's
that's my biggest evolution right now. Is like I just feel as though like I'm just doing it to make sure everything around me is feeling absorbed into this happy circle that I want to just keep evolving. Like, you know,
I mean, you've always been confident. Yeah. But I think that the thing is that I almost want to say there's a difference between confidence and sureness of self.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Because I think there's like a weird like differentiation between those two things, and I think that you were always confident, but you weren't always sure of yourself.
And now I feel more sure of myself than I ever have in my life. You know,
this is good.
I'm happy.
Thanks for having us.
No, thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was a wonderful time. I'm glad I got to check out the area.
Also, this area is so nice. Being up here, I mean, seeing it on screen was one thing. But being up here, I'm like, wow, this is
immaculate. The only thing, but obviously you need the lighting. Is like the lighting is blinding. You know,
I tried to look up.
I kept looking over here, and then when I look at it, I'm just like, it's kind of bright summer time.
It is bright. All right, so we always end with our goals for the week. We were talking about goals for the week.
Yep.
So for next Sunday, what's something that you want to accomplish? So what was your goal for last week?
My goal last week was get that back corner bitch up, and you got that back corner bitch up. And so, okay, we'll take it a step further. I'm gonna do events. We'll start. Well, I gotta run it through Gina, but karaoke. I want to do open mic this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have an event coming up this Saturday.
Huh?
You have an event coming this Saturday. You're performing.
Word, but I'm also doing this. So
That's, I think,
are you performing here?
I am excited.
Wow,
yeah,
congratulations,
So so at 2 to 4, if you guys are around,
when?
December 11th.
Saturday.
Which is on Saturday.
I'll be here. I don't think
I will. I'm
Come
in
through.
South Carolina, but
Drive all the way up for the performance.
Oh wait, no, I won't be here actually. I'll be in Vermont. I'm sorry. I forgot. I'll be in Vermont.
Whatever, it's fine. No worries. You're here in spirit.
Yeah, we'll have someone come and record it for us.
All right, so then I guess the thing for Sunday, then we'll bar and just have a great show.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
I
a
want to
good
do
goal.
have I do
That's
want
a good goal. Good goal.
What about you? What's your goal for the week?
This week is to go through 5 of my Japanese lessons and 5 of my French episodes of the show that I'm watching for French to like help me get the listening. To go through that, if I can go through 5 of that and 5 of that, it's a small goal right now, but just to do that, and then for like a physical goal, which is the only other thing that I'm kind of focusing on, because like I said before, I'm in a waiting stage, so I can't really do anything for my actual research right now. Is just to stretch every single day this week. I have like a knee problem going on right now that's preventing me from doing the running that I want to do.
Flexible.
Yeah, and I'm not flexible. I know, that's the thing.
Stretch.
Stretching is important, and it's important for like my physical health. So I'm putting that as a priority, and honestly, like one of my like what's called resolutions for next year is to try to be able to. I don't have a direct goal yet. I was gonna say do a split, but I'm not gonna be like Brett. I don't need it. But so all I'm doing for this week is just stretch every single day. If I can stretch every single day for this week, I'm happy. Yes. And if I can't meet that, I mean 5 out of 7 is good enough for me as my minimum. You know, so that's my goals.
Sure. My goal is probably I have to work on a lot of the programming aspects. I have to finish up the camera that's facing you. Some of the stuff isn't the same, so I have to fix that. There's some kinks and small like design stuff that I have to also finish up. There's a couple small pages that I want to create for our app as well, like a search page that takes you away from like the home straight to a different page. That way you're not distracted when you're searching on like your home feed. I didn't like that, so I'm making that adjustment. Just small programming adjustments. I really want to finish up the entire front end design so that when they're done with the back end, we're just like ready to go to testing.
Yeah.
So
and you're close. You probably can do it this
So I'm
week,
trying to bang it out all this week. And then the other thing I want to do is there's a 3-hour video that I want to watch that's on programming in this like one of the first languages. It's called C. It's the basics of everything. There's a 3-hour video that I had that I saved to my YouTube that apparently is a great course, and I want to watch the whole thing because I want to learn how to program in C, because if you know how to program in that, you pretty much could program in almost anything. And I'm determined enough to really focus and sit down on it, and I heard it's a really good video. And with starting my master's program in computer science come January, so I'm planning on weekly basis constantly watching different videos on the most basic programming languages, as well as learning how to program in this other mobile app development language called Flutter. So that's what my plan is right now. Yeah, well, I'm trying to separate out. I'm trying to make it regimented.
That's a big week goal.
Weekly goals.
It's a big week goal. I'm over here. I just want to edit a freaking whole episode. That's my goal.
That's okay.
Guys, that is a goal.
What was my goal for last week? I wanted to get presents. I wanted to start Christmas shopping early. I need to start Christmas shopping early. So I did. And I actually, I went shopping. I didn't buy anything physically, but I got ideas in my head. So I did a big part of what I wanted to do. Yeah, for sure. Because I literally always wait till last week, like fuck, but I got a lot. I didn't get a lot done, but I got mentally a lot done. But this week, my goal is definitely to get a full episode edited on my own. I don't want to contact someone and be like, no, I need your help. I'm gonna ask for help, but like I'm gonna get shit done. Because Simone's been killing it. So
That's good. That's good. I mean, we were talking about this offline. Just as a quick thing, editing is a huge part of all of this. You know what I mean? Like music, video type stuff. So all for it, man.
Yeah, for sure. All right, y'all. This is a great episode. I appreciate y'all coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
Great time.